Okay, hello everybody. Welcome back, folks. Welcome to the TED Talk, episode 2, CS:GO Talk. As you can see, I'm joined by two lovely gentlemen, Skriv, Freddie. How are you doing, guys?
Not bad. Yeah, not bad at all. It's not too bad of a day, to be fair. I don't know how it is in Freddie's end, but it's quite nice where I'm at. So yeah, I'm doing all right.
Very nice in Dublin, a bit cold, but yeah, it's actually surprisingly nice. It's very blue sky. Very nice.
Yeah, that's great to see. That's great to see. What have you been up to, the two of you? Now, obviously, we actually have something really interesting to speak about, both of you. Each of you has something really intriguing happening. Skriv, you just had the chance to commentate the RMR, work the RMR a couple weeks ago. Talks about this. How was it?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Just sort of a handful of games for myself on the C stream, and always a lot of fun. It feels like everything, even though it's sort of the same space, it's all remote and that kind of thing. Maybe some people out there thought we were perhaps in a studio, but it was just all in the bedroom, as most stuff is at this kind of level. But yeah, the games are always elevated. The stakes feel a lot higher. The gameplay kind of reflects that as well. And I got a couple nice games in there. Right, I got to see Astralis get knocked out, which was kind of bittersweet in a way. I think they needed that kick up the backside. I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit later on in depth.
Yeah.
And then also just the fact that the game itself, two maps, went full 60 rounds that you can get from those two maps. And it was just really exciting, really nail biting stuff and comebacks and shutdowns of comebacks, and then they'd restart and it was brilliant. It was really good.
I guess you get the rush of adrenaline as well when you're casting games like that, right? Because you know the magnitude, you know how much they matter. It's not like the online tournaments we're casting where someone could get eliminated. It's unlucky. They're not gonna be happy about it, but it's not like it doesn't cost you that much.
Yeah, and I feel like every game does matter. It is a Swiss system, so in that sense, it's similar to some of the online cups that I'm sure as we have been involved in. But I don't know. I think that they do step things up, and yeah, they understand, because you can kind of look at your online. If you are a favorite coming into that, there can be a bit more of a clear gap, as it were, and the online circuit. There's so many games going on. You just kind of have to focus on your own game, and sometimes, as players said, especially during the COVID era, they were like, I don't really know what tournament we're actually playing in. We've got 2 or 3 games that we just kind of load into a server and try and win, and then we'll figure it out afterwards, where that leaves us or whatever. But this, yeah, I think it definitely, like you say, magnitude's a really good word for it. Just how heavy and important, and difficult, therefore, it can be, and you invest a lot more of yourself into it. We see all the tweets afterwards, whether it's from a G2 player or a Forge player or whatever, saying I am better than this. We should have made the major and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, and that just resonates, I think, from the games. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's always like the post major period and the post qualifier period is always really interesting. Speaking, by the way, of investing yourself into the game and giving it your all, we know our dear friend Freddie here had a really fun time yesterday. Freddie, why don't you tell us a little bit about it? Because you joined the call, you were with your tea by your side, and you were just crying. Well, essentially, he was whining like a bitch for 15 minutes about not having any voice left. Why was that, Freddie?
Okay, it's a lot better. The lem tip saved me, but it wasn't actually even that long of a game. It was just a record for me in the sense that we had 5 overtimes in the 3rd map of the 2nd series. And to be fair, it was a really good game. It was actually, I'd say, one of the better games I've casted, because it just turned into absolute just pandemonium of just, it got to a stage where it was just like Belch, Knocker, and Amiga just running up middle and just one-tapping 3 people. And it was like, yeah, that's kind of the stage of the game we're at, really. And like Skrunk, the Sangal IGL, who notoriously isn't necessarily the best fragger, had like 41 to 31 or something like that, and he was destroying everyone. Clutched like 3 1v2s. It was actually a really good game, but it was a nice, it's a nice record to have. But luckily, it wasn't the whole day was pretty short. Apart from that one game, so apart from the one map, so overall, it was actually just pretty good fun, to be honest.
Yeah, by the way, you have an interesting announcement that came out yesterday, I think. You signed a full-time contract, like a content creation thing for
Yeah.
Grid, for the CCT. I was actually interested in that one, because there's obviously I've been working a lot of CCT as well for a long time with Jack. I'm not sure, Skriv, have you actually done a decent amount? I don't think you've done a lot of CCT work.
Yeah, not CCT, like maybe some of the older circuits like the Pinnacle Cup and things like that,
Yeah.
but not so much recently for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean like when I say CCT, like I include everything from like Spring Sweet Spring, Pinnacle Cups,
Yeah,
and stuff like that because it's basically the same guys making the tournaments. But tell us a little bit more about that. Like
Yeah,
what would you like? Obviously, me and you had a talk yesterday, but what's your work gonna be doing that full-time content creator stuff? Because it's not like a full-time caster. You're not only covering games, are you?
No, I think this might be the first time someone would have spoken about it on air, so I got to be a little bit careful maybe about what I say. But
Okay.
yeah, so we're under it's like a monthly contract, set rates every single month, which
Yeah.
I think for me especially because I'm at university and it's just nice to like have almost that like security. And so yeah, in like it's something completely new. I don't think anyone's really ever done something like this where
No.
they're building a team. I think the idea is to have a team of 8. I think that's the main idea of have 8 and then the freelancers that they still have like they normally do. And yeah, like we don't just do casting. So there's we get like every week or every 2 weeks we get like what we're going to be doing for the next 2 weeks and it's very clear cut and very just like okay, so what's happening, so what we're going to be doing. You get this day off, you get this day for prep day, this, that, and that. And Nuke, who's a talent manager who every caster would have at some stage talked to, has been really nice to us actually.
Yeah.
And he's like he just messaging us every day. Also just asking about how we are, which is really it's a nice change actually. I was like, oh.
Nuke is a
I was
lovely
like,
guy,
hey,
by the way.
cheers, Nuke.
I don't know. Have you
Yeah,
met him? Have you met him in real life?
yeah, I met him in Sweden.
Okay, you did because
Yeah,
he's a great guy. I think I met him for the first time like 2 years ago, and we were doing a Bulgarian tournament. He was an analyst, and back in the day, I didn't know who that guy was. They just told me he was like a Dota 2 commentator or stuff. And then a couple months later, they announced him as the talent manager of Relog. I'm like, shit, but he's a really nice guy.
yeah. But yeah, something I spoke to you about yesterday, Ted, is that like I think so. What they said to us is that they said that the priority was casting, but kind of when they start getting things more like getting it going, they want to be doing content creation, and it's just like we got a short list of just being like oh smokes maybe like doing just talking about the different regions, talking about the different teams, just like genuine, just like general content creation that we'd all do as a collective. And it's interesting because right now we've got Pop from, I think he's from Romania. I haven't fact checked that, but it's just because I've seen him do Romania cast before.
Yeah.
And then Exner's from America, then me and Brandon from the UK. So it's like we've got a nice little mix so far of actually different people from different regions. So hopefully when we actually sit down to do some of maybe like the team reviews, we can just get different perspectives. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's really good fun because we're getting like it's just guaranteed pretty much casting for the next 6 months. And like for me right now, that's perfect.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. I don't think like Skriv can correct me. Obviously, I think you've been well. It's not. I think you have been around in the scene for the longest time out of the three of us. But I don't think we've seen anything like that before. Like I don't think there's been like a position that says okay, you're a caster like full time casting with us, but you're gonna be doing content on the side as well. Like obviously there's like
Oh,
tournaments and
also may I
organizers
add,
doing content, but it's not like a full time thing. Yeah.
yeah, so like well actually one thing that is like it is non-exclusive. So like we can work with other people. Like Brandon, for instance, is in Rotterdam right now. So like there's
Yeah.
still like well he's in Sweden but doing Rotterdam. So it's like
Yeah.
we have the leniency to like be able to do stuff like I'm going to Epic Land at the end of the month, stuff like that. So like it's not like you only cast for us and you
Yeah,
cannot do
you
anything
can't
else.
stop a
Like there.
UK person to go to Epic, by the way. We're gonna
Oh
speak
yeah,
about that
exactly. Like
later.
it's a rite of passage, and I'm pretty sure Nuke knows that at this stage.
No, everyone knows that. I mean, it's like every single. I feel like you guys at the UK have so many LANs. Every 1 or 2 weeks, there's another LAN, and I just opened Twitter, and there's like lineups with people wearing green vests and stuff like that. I think that was the jerseys of Dweg and some of the
Yeah,
lads.
the bin men.
I think
Indeed.
Brandon was in the team as well.
Yeah,
He was, yeah, he was in the last Binman team. They got double grouped once again.
yeah.
Yeah, I was actually
Yeah.
thinking about going to a UK LAN like that. I think I spoke to you about that, Freddie. I'm thinking like early
I'd be down.
2023 or
I'd be
something
down.
like that. I'm
In
thinking
February.
about paying a visit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should, mate. You should. They're good. They're good. They're you just sort of meet everyone from the scene. A lot of the commentators go, and obviously I guess we've got a fair few commentators from the UK, so you get to meet a lot of people really and put I don't know, you don't want to say like face of the name, but it's that kind of energy. Obviously, you know, here I am speaking to Freddie kind of for the first time, you know, in person and all that sort of stuff. But it's a better connection, you know what I mean? So and all those long overtimes that maybe you've shared together, you can kind of reminisce about that in person. So yeah, you definitely should. They're good. They're good. I've been meaning to get back for a little while. But yeah, age and time and all that kind of stuff. So you just have to kind of bite the bullet and go for it, mate. You know what I mean? No excuses, really.
I'm thinking to play, by the way. I don't really want to, like, obviously I want to meet people, but I
Ted,
want to
I'd come with you.
I want to knife people as well, you know. I want to play. I want to play. Because there's been, like, there's been a couple of Bulgarian players going to Epic and UK LANs like that, like Xprend, like Chris.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, they're like,
back
yeah, they're like really good friends of mine, and every single time they're like, it's really cool. Are you coming over? And every single time I'm like, nah, I can't be bothered. But yeah, I think I'm considering it for the next one. But speaking of LANs, by the way, and like Studio CS and LAN CS and all of that, because like we're getting into the cool topic of it. There's been a lot more happening on LAN and studios, on stages recently. One of the things that I wanted to discuss, one of the tournaments, is the RMR. Obviously, we said that Skriv had the chance to cover it, so you're gonna be able to give us a little bit more insight. And you know, you've pretty much basically followed more games than me and Freddie, probably. Although I did watch a couple. Well, I did watch quite a decent amount of games. But starting off with the RMRs, I'd actually love to start with EUA. I think.
Yep.
I think I want to start with EUA. So give me your thoughts about this one, because you know the RMRs, they're always going to be interesting, always going to be full of upsets, but we had a couple big upsets in Group A, and I want to hear your thoughts about this one, because I think like in the beginning of it, a lot of the people could say, okay, FaZe Clan, they will probably go through, NAP will probably go through, Cloud9 will go through. Those are three of the teams that you're gonna 100% put in. Fnatic, I guess, was a kind of like, I know it was a 3-2 in the end, but I guess like you can make a prediction about that. They could be like a dark horse or whatever. Sprout and Bad News Eagles, the definition of a dark horse. But then you have like teams like, obviously I want to hear your opinion on G2 and Astralis not making it through. Overall, like, was there another team that maybe displeased you a little bit with their performance, and someone that impressed you?
Okay, so first of all, I think like when you look at this on paper, regardless of where the results ended up, this was the more kind of stacked RMR. So, you know, it definitely for me therefore is a bit surprising that we get, you know, these, like, massively surprising that we get these teams, because even the sort of weaker teams were towards the bottom end for me, right? Maybe you got a few more of those mixy teams over in B, but this one felt like you know, you look at it going into it, there should have been quite a clear top 8 that you could decipher, you know? So a couple of spots, you know, for a Bad News Eagles or whatever, let's see if they can do it again kind of thing. Fours is maybe one that you could look towards. They obviously knocked out Astralis, but they are usually a team that squeaks through, you know, and they lose out to BNE in the end. Pretty close one, but they also lost, you know, one of those BO1s to one win, a team that, you know, usually they look relatively good against. So that's a team that, you know, you could maybe say, but there's the two, you know, sore thumbs, as it were, is indeed Astralis and G2. G2 especially, I think Astralis, it's like, as I touched on right at the start of the show, probably needed this to finally kind of get the checkbook out and get things moving along. Being super inconsistent, you know, didn't make any changes. Now, I guess, infamously over the player break. And it kind of has, but you also do have to feel for them a little bit. The whole config situation, we've obviously had more development on that, and you know, it now moves away from maybe being a bit jokey and kind of a bit more like, well, okay, I hope he's okay, and don't fully recognize where, you know, obviously he got benched and then they've moved on. I don't know, you know, it obviously is going to say mutually. Really don't know. I really don't know. That whole situation's very weird now, you know, that it's kind of like he got beat up and then dropped, or what? Or is it like because he can't travel, or I don't know.
Yeah, it was like...
You had to go home, I think.
Yeah,
I think
the
so.
entire thing was like... I was actually thinking we could get to it a bit later, but I guess like we're speaking Astralis right now. So the entire thing was... because I read like his tweet and everything in detail. I think like the entire thing, obviously, I think people are familiar with the details of the situation itself, like the him getting kicked down the stairs, spat in the face, fights, and all of that. We're not gonna comment on that stuff. Like, we're not an MMA commentary channel.
Right.
We're gonna speak about the CS point of view, but in the end of the day, it's like I feel like it's a bit of a stinker for both k0nfig and Astralis, because like on one hand, like you have k0nfig being in a really unpleasant spot where he's bitten up to that part where he feels like he might not avoid dying, which is like something that he wrote, which is like mentally this is a really tough thing to go through, because you can see him like he's a big man, right? It's not like he doesn't look like a person that doesn't know how to defend himself. And when you're a big man and you have your confidence and then you get put in that position, you're not going to be the same person for well, I'd say you're not going to be the same person anymore, at least for the next like couple months maybe. Until you get your confidence back, because it's really demoralizing for a man to go through something like that, and it's really tough
and
when
be so public.
Yeah,
true.
That's the big problem, right? Because things like that happen in life, like they don't happen too often, but they happen occasionally. But when it's like when it goes to the public, and you feel like everyone just looks at you at your vulnerable side, right? Everyone knows that you're vulnerable. Everyone knows that you're going through a tough time, through a tough period, and in the meantime, your team just drops you. When you're going through that, which I feel like obviously people are gonna be like, okay, it's mutual thing or something like that. Yeah, maybe k0nfig was leaning towards saying, you know what, maybe I need to take my time off, but I'd say like 99%, I think Astralis were the ones to initiate and be like, okay, that's a bad reputation for us. We needed changes regardless because of the bad results, so we're not gonna be bothered. Obviously, I might be wrong, but this is how it looks to me.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. What I will say, he definitely didn't help himself, because you know, that quick tweet sort of shortly after the Jackson report where he was like, oh, it's mostly BS and all that.
When you say
like
mostly,
exactly, like any PR manager, any
It's
lawyer
like,
or whatever is going to tell you, don't take any sort of culpability. You might, because he probably feels in his head that he's a little bit guilty. Maybe he should have, you know, as he put in his tweet longer, he shouldn't have gone after the guy when he left, or he should have remained cool when this guy's kind of, you know, being an arse at the top of the stairs and all that, rather than getting into an argument with him, sort of walk away and be like, right, let me call the boys and maybe they can come out and be like, yeah, he's with us, we've already bought a table, you know, whatever. But he didn't kind of do that. He let his emotions take over a little bit, which is difficult, and people do it a lot and whatever. He might have had a bit to drink and all that kind of stuff as well. But yeah, definitely that tweet afterwards. I think your first thing after something like this is probably speak to a bit of a PR manager and be like, right, how do we move forwards? And this is the thing. This is the big. If you are an aspiring pro out there, perhaps watching or whatever, learn the Twitter etiquette and learn that you really should not. You know, it's the court of public opinion at the end of the day. It might not indeed hold up if this guy ends up being sort of caught and found out and k0nfig presses charges and all that. It's probably not, this one tweet's not going to make or break that case, sure, but everyone sees that and goes, oh, okay, so we've been kind of told that you got into an altercation, quote unquote, and then he says it's mostly BS. So it's like, all right, what do you think? You think he's probably thrown a punch. He might not have thrown the first one or whatever, but he's probably gotten involved in a fight and it's not gone that well for him. And it was a bit, you know, we can kind of say, okay, well, it's a bit silly for k0nfig to even get involved that far. Actually, as he's come out and said, and I would indeed, you know, err on his side for this, it's like, that's not really how it's gone. It's a bit of a verbal altercation, perhaps, whereas Jackson reported it as more of a physical one, because perhaps that's the information that they had, you know. So it's difficult.
Or the one that clickbaits.
Sure. Well, yeah. But, you know, I definitely sympathize with him, but I think that he didn't help that one tweet. As we've seen over the past, you know, couple months in esports, be careful what you tweet, basically.
Cancel culture is an entirely different beast nowadays.
Sure. So yeah, but yeah, it's a very, I don't know, it is also a bit whack. I do feel for him. It's kind of, there's one angle getting benched because I think that was maybe their only option, that he couldn't travel, needed, you know, it sounds like he's not just broken, it's very, very broken, right? You know what I mean?
I think he had like
operation,
three surgeries or something
crazy.
like that.
Like, how does it even happen?
I don't know, man. He must have really, if there's steps going up or whatever, you know, and then I think it was maybe fractured and it's been broken even worse when he's gone after the guy. Little bit in his
Yeah.
head as well. He said somewhere in the twit longer that like he might have had air trapped in his eye or something that could have ruined his vision, so he wasn't able to leave the Maltese version of A&E or whatever. So it is kind of crazy. It is like a pretty bad altercation, it sounds like. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely do feel that kind of getting dropped by the team is a bit of a shame. Maybe Astralis were looking for a reason to get rid of him. There's as we've kind of mentioned a little bit. Well, yeah, I don't know. He does have a bit of a history in some of his teams, I think, being difficult to work with personality wise. So maybe that's part of it. Then there's also the business angle that it looks like they want to try and bring back Device, and perhaps another rifler. Now I guess they need one to replace k0nfig, but maybe they were already eyeing that up anyway. Really don't know. Like when it comes down to the Astralis organization, we can also infer that maybe they're being a bit unfair, let's say, towards k0nfig in this situation. But yeah, we really don't know the whole picture on the sort of leaving vibe. I don't know. Like you say, he might have just wanted some time off, and they've said, well, unfortunately, we don't be giving those 6-man rosters a go anymore. So if you want time off, you're gonna have to leave. Maybe that's the way that it's mutual. Is like that. But there's a lot of conjecture, but definitely do feel for the guy, and hopefully, yeah, he bounces back stronger, and maybe this TSM team pickup, perhaps he can be a part of that.
Yeah, I think it's because like k0nfig fundamentally is an entry fragger, and Glaive has just turned into this entry fragger all of a sudden as well recently. Well, not recently, but like over the past like 6 months to a year. And literally, like, in an interview I did with him, he said that sometimes k0nfig's hard to control, as in like Glaive wants to be the one that's going out first and making the space. And that just sounds so like weird to me. It's like you've brought in k0nfig, who's probably the best entry fragger right now, and could be the best Danish, or like as in Denmark, could be the best Danish entry fragger of all time, apart from Dupree. And you're putting him in a second role over Glaive, who isn't renowned for being an entry fragger. So I feel like those role clashes, Astralis have always had it. So in a weird way, this kind of alleviates some pressure. But there's no way that Glaive is going to be able to perform at the same level that k0nfig did. And then you're bringing in Mister, and it's like, okay, Mister, he's done bog standard at best for the academy team, and now he's playing for the main team at a tier 1 level with really no tier 1 experience before. So I'm not too sure how this roster is going to unfold. And that Device ban was like, I heard like strong rumors maybe in like June that he was going to go within like the next couple weeks. Like it's just like you just keep on hearing more stuff from like somewhat reputable people as well, and it just seems like it's never ending. And like, will he ever join? Who knows?
Yeah. It feels like
because Farley's playing well now as well. Farley's actually like doing stuff, which is a change.
You know what I'm afraid of? I'm afraid because I'm with you on that Farley train. I think he's been doing a good job. I think he's been playing a good couple weeks, if not couple months, for Astralis recently. I think he's one of their more consistent performance, even though like obviously BlameF is going to be putting on the numbers, but BlameF he's been a bit of a shadow of himself recently. I feel like Farlig's been doing a good job, but I feel like Farlig is gonna essentially he's gonna be the one to eat the wood in the end of the day, because of all that's happening right now. And I feel like if you look at the Astralis thing, like we're gonna get back to k0nfig in a second and what's next for him, and obviously how does he recover, or does he eventually recover from this. But for Astralis and Device, I feel like if you look at Device as a player, there's only one thing that could happen that could make him happy and recover his career potentially, and that's going back into Astralis, because like it's been obvious that he's unhappy in Sweden. It's been obvious that he's unhappy with NIP and he doesn't want to play with for them. They don't want him to play for them either. So it's like I feel like Device has proven us to only willingly want to play with Astralis in his career, and with those people, with people like Zip, with Glaive. Now another thing is, I feel like k0nfig going out, I'm not sure if it was like I see the logic for them looking for a reason to get rid of him if Glaive wants to pick up the entry. But other than that, I feel like you remove Farlig, obviously that's going to happen if Device joins in. I feel like Zip is the other one that needs to go at this point, and that's why it makes
yeah.
it.
He's
That's
to go for
why,
months.
yeah, that's why it's interesting for me, because you bring up Blameth and k0nfig being two of the best Danish players in the scene outside of Heroic last year, and I'd say you can say they're the best two Danish players outside of Stown in Heroic
Sure.
last year. You bring them in, and now 1 year later, you want to bring back Device. So I don't see a reason for you to willingly want to remove one of those just to make sure that Glaive gets to play entry. Now, there's another perspective.
Yeah, it
that
doesn't make sense. I don't know.
There's the other thing though. That's the one that makes me think maybe Skriv might be onto something here, because Astralis has always been famous about being a team where everyone needs to be able to make self-sacrificial, right? So if the team needs you to play in a certain way, you need to do it. No one cares what you want to play. It's like you play under the structure, you play to win the game. And I feel like maybe if there has been something like, obviously Freddie said that Glaive shared with him that k0nfig is sometimes hard to control, right? So maybe if that is a problem, although like from all the comments that we've seen from players and people in the organization, everyone said only nice things about k0nfig, right? Obviously they're gonna do that
Naturally,
out of respect
naturally.
yeah,
publicly
yeah,
will.
but it feels a little bit different to me. I feel like k0nfig now is a lot less cocky than he was before. And like obviously Skriv said, like in North he was notorious about being really tough to control and to work with. I feel like that's not the case anymore. I feel like he's grown up a little bit, but it's like it's really complicated right now for Astralis. They're in a really weird limbo.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot here. I definitely look. It's not the biggest upset in the world that they don't make it through the RMR. I think that's certainly, yeah, exactly.
Oh, that was understandable. I think people,
yeah,
people expected that, especially with Mister in the lineup. I mean, it's
yeah, well, yeah,
sure. But he doesn't have the experience, and even when he's playing WePlay Academy League, he's not the brightest two in the shed. And
yeah, it was a bit of a desperate move. It was probably someone that they could get to Malta fast as well. Is probably you know, has he traveled recently, or maybe he's been through there to do the Academy League or something, you know. I don't know, but yeah, a difficult one for sure. I just like it's a bit of a cold take at this point. A lot of pundits have said the same thing, but like I mentioned, I think that they needed this, to be honest. You know, the team's been very inconsistent. This kind of result after, you know, making top 4 at Cologne kind of says to me that perhaps you don't know where your wins are coming from. And I think that is maybe a big issue, especially for some of the players. And, you know, Glavers and IGL, it's like you had this game-changing era, right, where it's affected, because I think that's the big thing about Astralis. There's sort of, you know, 4 majors, 3 in a row is one thing, but also versus a Luminosity into SK or a Fnatic that had kind of come before them, they really changed the game. They didn't just have like the best players; they had the best strategy, the best approach, you know, and that kind of thing, right?
They had the best structure. I mean, it was like a different approach to everyone else before them.
And just the way that, like, you know, nades, for example, no one had used HEs.
Hey, they
why don't we throw 2
game
at once, guys? You know, and that kind of thing. Like that sort of. But it sounds so simple now, but at the time, you know,
one of those memes. Throwing double nades got invented in 2015. People in 2014, and then you see the meme with just people throwing one nade and holding the other one in their hand and being like, "What do I do with this now?"
It is kind of it's really interesting.
Seems
and I mean,
simple, where it's just like, oh, like obviously, why aren't we doing this? And it's just oh, fuck.
Yeah, right. I mean, people didn't use mollies when the game first came out because they didn't like.
Crazy,
there's a good year of pro level Counter Strike where it's like, my utility's better than this. You know what I mean? It's like it's kind of, and that is obviously many years ago, but that's why it's fun. I think, you know, seeing things develop for sure. But yeah, we have to look back to that kind of Astralis and be like, okay, this is where they've come from, and there is maybe a bit of a curse for some of these players where they're trying to get back to that, and in actuality, you can't really. And maybe Glaive is stuck there in a sense, you know. Yeah, well, you know, not just the level of play, but also just the way that it is. Like the game, the meta, and all that is completely different.
Brains we have now as well.
Exactly. And
I really
don't know.
have been figured out at this point. It's going to be really hard to find another thing that's really game breaking and in that kind of a way. But by the way, I love the fact that I just remember that. You remember like when you were playing CS in 2016 or 2017 and someone would use nades on the other team, you would just start flaming them in chat being, "Oh, you're such a tryhard. Just shoot, just fight like a normal person." And nowadays, like this is the most normal thing. Nowadays, like you need to use nades, and even in your pugs, like even low brain pugging, running around, you need the nades. Which, by the way, as Freddie says, is the most obvious thing ever. People don't used to do that back in the days. I mean, a couple years ago, we didn't really have that too much. So yeah, it was quite interesting. But getting back into the RMR now, outside of Astralis, where obviously there's going to be a lot of changes, a lot of things happening. We got Trace benched yesterday, I believe. And there's going to be more changes for sure, like 100%. And maybe not only Farlick, maybe Zip as well. But G2, I want to speak G2 because, you know, you look at the teams. Yeah, Force is a bit of an inconvenient one. Seeing them there, you'd hope to see them in the next stage, but not a lot of people expected to see G2 getting eliminated here.
Yeah, no, for sure. We lost Freddie, maybe.
Yeah, I think we did.
I think he may have had a DC.
Okay, we're gonna wait for him. You know, for
yeah,
now,
that's
it's just,
what I was gonna say for the
me
YouTube
for
VOD. Maybe you want to. Do you want me to move on? I can talk about it, or do you want to just wait until he gets back?
I think we're gonna go on. I think we're gonna.
Okay,
go on
dude. All right, show must go on.
I'm not gonna lie. Last time I screwed up in the end when we finished the podcast because obviously this is episode number 2. The first one was with Jack, Ryan, and Neo. I stopped the recording. Like, I stopped the stream before I stopped the recording. So I had to cut like 3 seconds in the end. And that was a 2 hour, 20-minute thing that I had to render through Sony Vegas. I'm not going to tell you how much time that took, but I'm not doing it again. I'm not doing it again. We're going to continue.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough.
Okay, he's back. Welcome back. Welcome back, Freddie.
Very cool.
They just all stopped. They were scared.
Well, there you go. So we have a bit of banter for the YouTube, I suppose, but none of the content gets, you know, Freddie doesn't miss the content, so all good. Yeah, so G2, man, I don't know. Like, it's actually wild. They are one of the teams, I will say, the small caveat to begin with before we get into the negative. They are one of the teams that got a bit shagged by the format here with, you know, the best of ones and all. You know, they beat Ecstatic 16-0 and then they're straight into a BO1 against Cloud9. You know, and one winner, a bit of a tougher team to put away in a best of one. I think we saw quite a few times. You know, they didn't make it in, but they really did bring it close even when they were losing in those BO1 scenarios. However, definitely shouldn't be losing a best of 3 to Gamer Legion. Simple as that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, once you get away from this, best of ones, upsets, and don't know what their map pool is kind of like. It's like, come on now, guys. I don't think you should be losing out to Gamer Legion. I think the tough thing, what it looks like to me, is, you know, they've got Huxley in. They're still maybe not as happy with their game, even though, you know, they had a pretty decent pro league, blast groups and everything, you know, the 10-0 Giga Chad, all those kind of memes. Yeah. I still think that they weren't happy with where their game was at. So, and, you know, I spoke to kind of Yanko about this recently, where, like, you have to do a bit of self-scouting and everything, and I don't know that they'd done as much of that. I think some of these teams they come up against were very ready and saw a lot of the holes in the gameplay. And it's tough. It's tough. G2 have set themselves up in a way. If you go back and look at their series, it's like, okay, actually, they have, okay, here's Nico and Munisi playing well. Here's Nico and Hunter playing well. And, you know, they have the 2 players that maybe other teams out there would get away with having 2 players having a good performance, and you'll win the map, you'll win the game. But this Huxley guy, he can be dead weight. And it's like, if a JKS is also not quite having a pop-off game or whatever, then they're going to lose.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like how this phase lineup looked in the early days.
Yeah, if k0nfig gets 15 kills, they win the map.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, if k0nfig can't put, but even like the very early, but also I would say this one as well, right? Maybe a bit before they got Rops, you could argue, or maybe just as Rops had joined and they were still figuring it out. There were a few games in there where everyone's like, all right, this is the phase. They're going to start taking over now. And yeah, k0nfig would drop 10 and it's like, that's costing the game. So they need Rops to, you know, pop off on the end round. They need Brokey for a few clutches. They need Twist, you know, and they kind of need all those pieces to come together, and that's why as well, you know, the take with FaZe is, oh, they're the most clutch team and all that. You see, they made it through 3-0, but they were like 3 incredibly close games actually.
Yeah.
Oh, the Game of Legion one was silly.
Yeah, literally, but also against Sprout, who also made it in and looked relatively good, sure. But a team that, you know, for who should be the best in the world and is maybe going to win, you know, another major and have the best year of Counter-Strike ever. They also, there was like overtimes in there and it was a 2-1 and all that kind of stuff. So they really were pulled to the maximum, but they have that extra 10-15% that the other teams don't, you know, when a Rain pulls out a clutch, despite his age, but he's got all that experience, he's cool as a cucumber, you know, whatever. But G2 are lacking that kind of factor, and with someone like Huxley, who is, you know, not the fragging in-game leader, who is the guy who's meant to, you know, be a bit like Carrigan with some mid-rounding and send Nico and Hunter, you know, Kovac go kill as it is and all that. And it's like, it's sad. I mean, the landscape was different, but when they were playing with fucking Amanek, you know, and not even a real AWPer, they looked better than they have this year.
Actually, I was speaking.
You know?
I was speaking to that with a friend of mine, I think the other day, and I was thinking, you know what, G2 without an AWPer, with Nexa and Amanek and Jax look better than the G2 now, and I'm like, was it that hard to just bring in Monacy replacing Amanek and see how it works with Nexa and Jax in the team as well? I was like, why did you have to remove Nexa that early? And I'm like, I'm not a Huxley hater. I'm not an LXCB hater. I just feel like it's a little bit odd that you're changing IGL so often. Because when you change on IGL, that changes everything in the team. And it makes it so much more uncomfortable for everybody. I mean, look at Hunter. The first 3 months of the year, we were speaking about him being top 3 rifler. He was the best player on G2. Hands down, he was better than Nico the first couple months of the year. Now he's nowhere to be seen. And honestly, like, he's one of the people that I think are to blame for what's happening with G2, because he's been like, he's just been there. He's just been in the server, but you don't really get that amount of action. You don't really see him being, not even the game changer. You don't see him being consistently that ice cold killer and whatnot in the server. He's just like there. He's extremely mediocre. He's been extremely mediocre the past couple weeks and months.
Yeah, because you have just like JK, or like you have like Hunter and Nico sitting there just being like, oh, every other month we're changing our complete game style. That's hard. I don't think you can really go through something like that. And I don't know, this G2 roster, it just doesn't, like, it feels like they've got everything to work and it just doesn't. And then there was a really good article by King Demps on when they were at Blast, and it was looking at their first few games, and it was like, okay, they're looking shaky, and the reason why they're looking shaky is because they've got the pieces of the puzzle. They should like figure it out, because it's kind of, I was kind of making the connection to, do you remember when FaZe picked up their God lineup back in like 2017, and they bombed out of a DreamHack event, and they like went like dead last and lost to like shitters basically, and then went to win ESL New York and E-League, dropping a single map between the two tournaments. And that's what I thought G2 were going to kind of come into, of like they just needed that extra little time to just iron out the really basic things, and it looked like that was the problem at the start. And now those basic things just haven't been ironed out, and it's like, oh, we're okay, maybe like a little bit more down the line is like what do they do now? They've missed out the major, but what do they do?
I don't know.
Well, yeah, right. It feels like you have really run through the options here, and yeah, it's like how far do we go? And maybe I think that, you know, you're kind of talking about changing up the game style and all that. I don't know where the philosophy's been at. Apparently, you know, when Carlos was there, Nico had a lot of pull. You know, and indeed liked Munacy coming in, all this kind of stuff. And I think that part of it with the IGLs and things, it's a bit of a Nico classic. He's surely got influence, right? It's not like, oh, 100%. He doesn't listen to the IGLs and he's a total arsehole. I get that kind of line, but there is some truth in the fact that maybe indeed, you know, he wants a bit more input, or it kind of has to be his way. And the thing with Nico, what I feel kind of makes him so great, and why he is up there as, you know, best rifler in the world and all that kind of stuff, and it's tough as the GOAT argument, but certainly at the moment, that for me is still the case. Is because I think he is so versatile. He can
He's done everything.
move around in different systems. You know, he can be the one guy that carries the team, or he can be the guy that creates a bit of space, or the guy that clutches up around, or the guy that finds it in a mid round. You know, depending on what or a 4-spy round or whatever, like back in the day for mouse sports and everything, it's like he can do those things. He can do an awful, but I don't think that he perhaps necessarily realizes that it's like, okay, well, because I can do it, and maybe my ceiling is higher than my teammates, I can understand that, but I can play in many different situations. I'm very adaptable. Why can, Hunter not do the same? And I'll get 32 kills or whatever. I expect him to maybe be hitting like 25 to 28 while we're playing a looser style. Okay, he's done that. Well, more structured style, seems to be struggling with that. I don't know why that is, and I don't think that he quite recognizes that some people need a lot more comfort coming in with certain different styles and all these kind of changes and whatnot. And it's funny because I think it's been throughout Nico's career, like
he's IGL, non-IGL, IGL.
Yeah, exactly. He's like done a bit of everything.
He's like a more developed version.
In a bit of AWPing. Yeah.
He AWP'd for was it on mouse sports? He AWP'd for like a little bit.
He AWP'd on face as well. He AWP'd on face as well.
Yeah. Well,
he's literally done everything.
He AWP'd on.
When
I think
he had
he
a lot
AWP'd
more
on G2
influence
as well. I think he's AWP'd everywhere.
Yeah, I think when he's had a lot more influence within a team, or they've been a bit looser or whatever, he's a big fan of the double AWP. They've kind of fallen out of the meta, but there was definitely a time there. Definitely on the phase days where it was like pretty prominent at that time, I think, because SK and everyone had been doing it a lot, and so I feel like he definitely was like, right, I'm gonna pull out the AWP. So he's done a lot of everything, and I think that that maybe resonates, and he just kind of struggles as an individual to see that his teammates can't quite keep up sometimes to all this adaptation and change. But you raise a really good point with G2, where it's like the IGL, and I don't know, man. I don't know, because the issue is, I think that bringing in Alexi B is kind of, we don't really have any options. We need an IGL, so let's get but they didn't really think about, is he going to fit? Are we going to be able to micromanage? Shall we maybe trial him for a little? Someone like Alexi B, I think you have to, because usually you got to buy into an IGL style and all that, right? I think with someone like Alexi, you really have to buy in, and you probably have to swallow your pride a fair bit. And when he's telling you to do this, that, and the other, and whatever. And again, I don't know that. Not even just Nico. I think that the G2 players in general don't really have that sort of style. But the initial. I don't know what really happens. Whether it's a tactical decision or just sort of team wise, chemistry wise, whatever. But I do feel, maybe keeping Nexa for a little while longer after that Stockholm major would have been the move. Get yourself an AWPer. You got big man Jax with the vibes or whatever it is that he brings, and then stick with Nexa for a bit, because that definitely seemed like the best style of calling for him. And he was able to frag out as well. That's kind of the thing, you can stay loose.
He had some rounds. He had some really good rounds.
Because Huxley seems to be in a similar vein, where it's like, okay, we're loose. They've gone back to that as they've moved away from Alexi B or whatever.
Yeah.
But he just doesn't bring the numbers. And it's hard, man. But this, I cannot tell you the last time, if ever, I saw a pro. It was like 16-13. Was it against Fnatic? Maybe it might have been the one win. No, it was the one they didn't play Fnatic against one win, right? I looked at it the other day, and he was like -24.
Oh yeah, I remember. That
something like that.
I haven't watched
maybe not quite. I think he had like 24 deaths. Sorry.
Yeah.
Which is like, in a game that long, he was like 8-24. I'm checking, and it's just, that is crazy to me. He's died in like every single round apart from like 5.
Yeah.
Which is just absolutely insane.
That stage, just don't have an IGL. Just replace him with someone that's better.
I mean, literally, yeah.
At that stage, it's just like, because it's also, you look at Alexi B and it's like, they kind of tanked in G2. He's gone to NIP. He's been there for like a month. They went 3-0, and they also they beat Astralis, Bad News Eagles, and Cloud9. Those are two pretty decent
Sure.
teams. I think if you look on like the difference, maybe play like a little bit of devil's advocate, how they did it, and like considering everything as well is like almost like a little bit more impressive than what phase of like in that 3-0. Like NIP are looking like there's a lot of questions about them with like Rez on the AWP. Can Hampus start to shoot back? Hampus is like who's like the second highest rated player or the highest rated player.
Hampus is a sick IGL, man.
I wanted to see this
love
for a
him as
while,
a player.
actually.
I love
he
him
was
as a
like
player.
he was unreal this tournament, and then Brolan as well was equally as good. So yeah, like Alexi B is like kind of just proved maybe G2 should have kept him.
Yeah. By the way,
Yeah.
I think it was Hampus that went out and said, "I don't know why G2 didn't want Alexi B. He's
Yeah,
such
yeah,
a sick
yeah.
IGL," which was so funny to me because I'm like, you know what? You kick him out.
it
You
makes
don't give him.
sense.
You don't give him enough time. Obviously, that's not enough time. What you've given him. He wasn't even that terrible. I'd argue. And then NIP pick him up. They put Rez on the AWP. Hampus
Who
is a
hasn't
rifler.
AWP since Epsilon in like 2018.
Yeah,
as
he
well.
hasn't.
That's something to add.
He hasn't oped on tier 1. Never. And like he hasn't oped in 4 years. Not a single time in tier 1. And then it magically starts working out. And you put, it's not only Rez on the AWP. Estak is not an oper anymore. He's back to rifling. Hampus is not an IGL. There's so many internal changes in NIP, and they still make it work. And they're like, yeah, Alexi B is a sick IGL. And let's not forget, Brolan moved away from Fnatic and joined NIP because he wanted to speak Swedish. He's speaking English now as well in NIP. And it's
Hampus,
it's like you think about it. NIP shouldn't be a team that's doing well from the beginning, right? The honeymoon period shouldn't be an option, I feel like, for them. But that victory obviously over Cloud9 I think was the impressive one. I think the BO1s against Astralis and Bad News Eagles, they're alright, but it's not like a result that you would be highly impressed with. I think the Cloud9 one is really sick because C9 right now, I'm looking at that team, I'm thinking they are a dark horse to win the major. I'm really impressed with C9.
100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, actually. I think there's a lot of dark horses. This is like, I think the atmosphere we have of CS right now is that we have so many teams that, like, they could. If they, and that's kind of the glorious CS. On the day, if you're better, you're just going to be better because how these teams, what divides them is like next to nothing. It's so ridiculously close. And that's why you see like teams make it to these RMR qualifiers. And then like a team like Gamer Legion who are just playing on like absolute vibes, just destroy everyone. But yeah, like Simon said, like Hampus was the highest rated player in the RMR, and he had a 1.36 rating, and the next player below him had a 1.28, and then it's Brolan. So you have like NIP, you have your two riflers who needed to. So the questions I was asking, and I was talking to Devil Walker and James Banks about this, was like, okay, if Rez is on this AWP, you need now two riflers step up. Brolan obviously can, because we've seen it. Hampus, like, can he? Apparently he can. And then Rez as well, equally did pretty well with the AWP. Like, he had a 1.17 rating. That's still very good and in like the top 20, top 15. So, like, he still played very well. And I think NIP again, a dark horse to potentially win the major.
Yeah, but you know, speaking of dark horses, actually moving on to the next group of the RMR. I think this is the group where we actually had like, I think everything went to plan here. I don't think there were any major surprises, any major upsets. I don't think a team that you would think 100% should make it through in the next stage didn't. I think there was a couple close calls. I think there was a couple teams that maybe could have been a little bit disappointing, but I'd say everything went to plan here. I mean, obviously I want to hear your thoughts on this one, but I think like Navi ends going 3-0, OG Heroic and Vitality just losing 1-0-1 but not really struggling too much, and then obviously we had like Big Mouse and Outsiders having to fight for their spot. But I think this one was maybe the more orthodox one out of the two.
I think the interesting one was Ents showing that they are actually good. I think that's the main thing of having a little bit more time in the saddle, and with that team, they've gone from, I think, not having many voices to having so many fucking voices. Like, Sumpires is such a vocal person. He was basically IGLing in Movistar. Valde as well, very similar. So I think this team now is starting to, like, it's shown, like, they're in their own. Because they've beaten, like, a 2-0 against Big, I think, especially a team that's just, they've just beaten Vitality the best of one. And I think going from Pro League where they came like second last in their group, didn't they? Like they did really bad in Pro League,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
now they're 3-0. I think that's again a team where you look at that and you're like, they could genuinely win this major. Like it's so possible. And they personally, I think it's a team that is going to be really good, like seriously good. I think Ents have got it to be top 5 consistent throughout like the next year.
Yeah, they maybe have the game a bit more solved. I think Snappy, we're really going to have to, if he can, we're really going to have to look to him, because I don't know that pieces-wise that should necessarily be the case. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard. It's hard. Like, Sun Pius, if you can hit those kind of levels in that he was able to find in Movistar, you know, it could be really impressive, could be their star player. But the loss of Spinks is massive, and
Yes.
even with some Pius and Valde, I don't know that, you know, that gap is filled yet. Maybe you scale there or whatever, but it's not even like a 2-for-1 trade. You know what I mean? You may be getting a bit more of a consistent AWPer, so things change a little bit. I know that he said resources are maybe going more towards the AWPing now, and indeed it'll be a bit easier for that, as you're saying, Freddie, because he's
It's a change of
Sun Pius a bit more
AWPing
vocal
style,
and
though.
stuff. Yeah,
It's
well,
a
yeah,
complete
definitely, right?
change. Yeah,
And
they've gone
CT
from
side
super
is
passive, super aggressive.
yeah, exactly. So I think that it will be kind of an interesting one, and maybe they put a bit more emphasis on. That's one of the big things, right? Because I think that they were a very cool kind of T side mid rounding, very flexible, you know, and Spinks was really cool to work around that. Whereas now I think that they have, you know, some better communicators, some better
leaders,
percentage players. Yeah, that kind of thing, right? Where I think that they're maybe a little bit safer. So we'll see. I think that the CT side is perhaps where they now start to focus, which would, you know, kind of make sense. It's maybe where the game is at. But at the same time, they did get a lot of praise at the event for, you know, their games on Nuke. And their T side particularly, you know, and it seems like Snappy has kind of solved that one, figured that one out. So, you know, really curious. Great bounce back from them. Love Ents, right? I know Madden, probably one of the better players that I know, and spoke to Snappy and all that. So I'm definitely a little bit biased in that sense, but it is pretty cool at the same time. This whole group, just a more sort of general observation. It's funny because it makes a lot of sense the way that it's sort of, you know, it's like, yeah, probably everyone that we expected. But saying that, this should have been the more open group of the two. It's just funny how it works.
Should have been,
you know?
right? I mean, I was looking at the teams. You're looking at teams like Falcons, Sango, like
Yeah.
Even
He's
the
a go-getters,
K23 and Monte. You're like, oh, surely there's gonna be an upset here, and then you see just the top 20 teams just making it through, and it's like, okay, that was boring.
It was so close though. Like it wasn't.
That's
I'd
true.
say like especially the Sangao Mouse game. Like holy shit,
that was crazy.
The whole of Ancient, and this is actually something to say about Mouse. Okay, as much as they've gone through, goddamn, they looked awful. Like against Sangao, they looked so bad. Yes, Sangao played really well, and you can never take that away from them. But on Ancient, there was a big part. If it just felt like the last like 15 rounds, it was just like, who's not going to mess up? Who's not going to overextend? Who won't miss a really easy spray? It was like on both sides, it was just mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. And it came down, it just felt like a very inexperienced game we were watching. And for Sangao, I can kind of understand that. You know, like you've got a 17, 18, a very recent 18-year-old as well, for that matter, a very recent 20-year-old, who a lot of them don't have really any LAN experience. This is their first time they've played in their whole time as this roster with Fuzi. They've beaten Fnatic, they've beaten Sprout, and apart from that, they've pretty much only played against like tier 3 teams. This is their first time where they're playing against like proper good teams. Naturally going to be scared. You look at Mouse Sports, and they've kind of got the same idea of, you know, like Dexter in Cologne, that was his first ever stage event. You've got 3 academy players. Maybe that is actually coming into effect. Maybe that inexperience is going to start to show, especially when it's coming down to the line in that manner.
Yeah, I think it's I think that's a great point, because obviously people tend to forget, because we're all on the hype train for academy players and younger guys, and every one of us is like really critical. I think that's a really normal thing, to be fair. I don't think this is something that I don't think this is something that deserves any critics. I feel like in this kind of a matchup, obviously, we're gonna get to the Americas RMR in just a couple minutes, but like on a stage like that, in games like that, we have a really good saying, like, it's a typical Bulgarian saying that we have. Obviously, it might not sound as pleasant in English, but it says that nicknames do make the difference sometimes. Nicknames do do matter sometimes in matches like that. And by that I mean
What?
like nicknames matter. The nickname makes the difference. And what that means is that like when you have a person that has so much experience on stage, when you have a person that's like look at Imperial. Those guys, if it wasn't a game for like if it wasn't a tournament that's a qualifier for a major in Rio or something like that, I can guarantee you they're not winning those 2 BO3s in a row in the end. But those things make the difference, right? Like for teams like Mouse and Sango, those younger guys, they feel the pressure in a game like that. And it's gonna be a lot different. Like even people like Navi, like Heroic, like Vitality that have all the experience in the world, you never get accustomed to that. But in the end of the day, that makes a really huge difference. And I feel like it's still good for them. Like in the beginning, you're gonna be happy with just slipping through. Obviously, you're gonna be looking at the demos, you're gonna be analyzing your mistakes, working with the psychologists and whatnot to make sure that what happened in that matchup and what made you, as Freddie said, make all those silly mistakes that you normally wouldn't do in another game doesn't happen again, right? You're gonna make sure that happens. But in the end of the day, you need to learn to be patient. And I feel like for a person to grow as a person, because this is your like entirely your mental game, in order for you to grow as a person, you need to get more experience like that. You need to play more tournaments like that. So I guess like from a team like Mouse, let's not forget, this is a team that 3 of the players in this lineup played in Academy League 1 year ago. So they are
well.
Not even some of them,
yeah,
And the
exactly.
coach as well, like Cyclone's an academy coach.
Yeah, exactly. So those guys, like especially, I'd say for Cyclone, maybe the pressure isn't that massive because like when you're a coach, like it's a bit different. Like the game for you is the game, but for those guys, it's an entirely different vibe. It's an entirely different way that you approach losing a close situation and stuff like that. So I guess it's still good for them that they make it through because they've shown us that they have the potential to be giant slayers, if I can put it that way. They've had some good results in those past couple weeks and months. I just feel like it's really normal for them to be lacking consistency at this point, as much as like they are extremely young, but they've shown us that their skill ceiling is high as hell.
They're only gonna get better and better. Like that, they're just only gonna get better.
I think as well, just to sort of your point, Ted, like the only way that you can build that experience and get used to that situation is unfortunately putting yourself in that getting there,
exactly.
right? It's like you can't run that, you can't scrim that. There's sure loads of sports psychology that you can take, but the only real way that you're going to fully learn is to be there and to be under pressure and are we losing? And it really is like when you're already at the top end of the game, and I think that mechanically, the difference is between a Torgy and a Simple ultimately within a game is like, if we're going purely on mechanics, it's maybe Simple gets like 3 or 4 more kills, right? But for me, I think we're sort of on a similar page. It is that sort of mentality thing. The ability to stay present, ignore the score at the top and be like, right, what round are we running? Okay, I know my part. I've done it. So's Frozen, whatever. Cool, we won the round. All right, next one. Regardless of what the score, and that's kind of like how it has to be and staying just zoned in and not thinking, oh god, if I fuck up here we're gonna lose, or we've got no money, we can't lose this round, or whatever. That can be tough, and sure, you've got to be aware of the fact that okay, I've got a Galil, maybe I have to play slightly, sure, but when it comes to the bigger picture, that's the thing that would separate you out from like the rest of humanity almost. And you know how it is, all the great sports stars and why it's because Kobe classically would wake up super early while everyone else is maybe getting in from their night out, and he'd do it every day. And that's how he's able to get ahead. And sure, we're not asking for that, but like you have to be able to just stay in that focused mindset, and I think that that's really, really difficult for some players to do. And again, especially while you are a bit young, because it's these tough losses or these tough games. Obviously, they make it through, but let's say they have a tough loss at the major, I can definitely see that coming through. Maybe to make it to playoffs or whatever for the first time for some of these guys and all that. Those are the games that are going to be like, all right, actually, it looks like I need to kick my game up a notch. What I'm doing right now isn't quite working. I want to be the best in the world. So. But on the Mouse team in general, I think they look pretty good. They're very, very young.
Oh yeah, they still did very well, I'd say. Like,
sure.
never take it away.
maybe the big man, maybe Dexter is kind of the next move, but it feels like as well the first time that he's actually been rounded out with a pretty solid team. It's like Rops is just standing there with the for sale sign for like a year. Bemis for me never really hit the mark, and now the funny thing with the academy players as well that I think some people maybe don't talk about is the fact that I think they will come in ready, hungry, and with respect.
Yeah.
Because they've been built up in that academy system where it's like, right, here's your coach, here's your in-game, we're playing like a team. We might not have all the pieces. Maybe this guy isn't quite as good as he looks in pugs and can't cut it in the, he might be a bit of a dickhead or whatever, right? There's obviously going to be things that you work out, but versus like, oh, I've just been fucking around in mixed teams, entering a few qualifiers. And in those mixed teams, it's very loose. It's kind of about you. It's about the individual and all that. But they've been brought up in a system that is for the team. And you've got your role, you've got... So I think that they will ultimately, have that kind of respect where some of the others that had been around in a different system come into this team. Dexter's got a bit of stick, got a bit of flame. He plays into it. It's funny, he types kick Dexter or whatever in Twitch chat, as he said. But definitely, I think that this time they'll come in and they will be buying into his system, which I think is a really, really big factor. Whereas some of the other players that he's had, maybe not quite feeling it, not quite believe. And they have been a bit unlucky. They picked up Acor and he looked shit hot, and then he comes into this team.
Why is he so good in Gamer Legion?
And then exactly. And then he's moved on.
Like,
Dexter's probably watching that Gamer Legion game like, I'm cool. I got Torsi now, but like, come on, guy, where the fuck was this? And I have to sit there and get all the flack. Maybe it's Dexter's system. Maybe Dexter's the problem, and it's like, no, it just seems like this guy just never really clicked with the team. Really, really weird stuff. But I am kind of excited. I think that Mao's, not for the whole tournament, but I think they could be an upset machine if not careful. If they run into a Na'Vi or a Cloud9 or something like that.
In their own way, they did reinvent the game. In a really weird way, they have reinvented what CS is with this Academy League. Because I'd be honest, a lot of these other Academy leagues are just like a lot of these academy teams are just dog shit. Like they're actually just bad. Like
it's just to have presence. I get that.
That's harsh.
Like they had that. Like, oh my god, like look at Eternal Fire. They've won like one game over the past 4 seasons. Like what are they doing? Like they genuinely just like exist. Like they're just there. And then you have like Fnatic Rising, you have Mouse NXT, just 2 teams to pick out of a hat where it seems like they've got like I know sorry. For Fnatic Rising, I know speaking from Volt, and I know from Miles NXT when I interviewed Cyclone, like the amount and like how he talked about the academy team and how he was like, okay, it's basically just the full team, but not the full team. We're gonna have the exact same fundamentals. It's gonna be done in the exact same way. We're gonna like handpick our players, and like those players, I don't know how they found them. Whatever they've done, they found just the perfect players. Like, to be fair, like, fair play to them in that front. Same with, like, Fnatic Rising. It's like, a lot of those players are just kind of random. And then they've just put them together with really good, really good structures. And then the help from the main team. Like, I know especially Fnatic. I know Mezzi has helped Volt out. And I know he's helped the Academy team. I know the Mouse team, Dexter was like, oh, yeah, we scrim them, like, once every 2 weeks at a minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we talk about the games after them, and it's like that does help. And after a while, and then what's really good is that because the systems are so similar, when you see Exertion, JDC, Torsi get up into the main roster, nothing's changed. It's just gone from like a higher level of CS, but they're ready for it. And you can tell they've all been put up at the exact same. They've been put up at the time, and it seems to have just been perfect. Like when Exertion came up and he replaced BMAS, I was like, oh, like come on, you're replacing someone who's really experienced with someone who's not very experienced at a very time where you probably need someone who's experienced. Oh, well, Exertion's unreal, and he's just shown us that like it's amazing. They've got like a whole team of sports psychologists, like they've just done it right. Whereas you look at some of the other academy rosters, and it's like, what the fuck are they doing? Like, I think Copenhagen Flames are starting to actually do well now, and then Astralis Academy, oh my god, like some of the stuff I've heard, Jesus Christ, man, like it's just riddled with just worse. It just gets worse and worse.
I was actually thinking, before the start of this episode, I was thinking that Skriv is going to get into the role of Neo from last time. He was the bad cop. He was the one to flame people and call them trash.
Oh, no.
And now Freddie's just went out of the wardrobe behind me, and he's like, come on, bitches, I'm here. I'm ready for trash talk.
It's just because like, I look at the academy team and it just seems like it's like too because like from what I heard, you have to like get voted in. Like it's hard to be an academy team. You
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
just
yeah.
become one.
Right.
And then like you look at like Big Academy as well. They've done it fantastically.
No,
like
big
they
academy. By the
used it.
way, they're playing the best. Like they're playing the best CS out of all the academies.
Yeah.
And
Sure,
I'm
sure.
not getting shit like, yeah, but they lost that game. They look at that, look at those results and stuff like that. Results don't mean everything in CS sometimes about the way you're playing the game. Like in terms of like basics, in terms of their ifs, buts, and maybes, protocols, structure, nades, utility, reactions, everything that you would like. Big Academy is the
Yeah.
best academy team for me. Like, the best team. I'm not saying they couldn't be beaten. Like, Fnatic Rising could beat them on a good day. Navi's Academy, I think it's absolutely sick. Obviously, we have the new season of the WePlay that started yesterday. Navi Academy's is really good. The Navi Junior boys. You said the Copenhagen Flames. I haven't had the chance to watch them yet, but I'm sure they're going to be doing
I
all
just
right.
know in Denmark they've got like I've heard good things about the team of like this is like oh they're like this is actually interesting. It's something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like but Big Academy. The point I wanted to make was just like with Keto. It's like
Yeah.
they put him down. He like I can't remember. There was another guy who went to an academy roster and it didn't have the same effect. But with Keto, he
Flamey,
went
maybe?
down. Well, yeah,
Flamey, yeah.
Flamey, yeah. So for Flamey, it just
Cajun
tanked
B.
him. Yeah, it just tanked him. Cajun B, I don't know why he's playing with. It just makes.
was,
I think
he was.
they needed
28.
him, right? They,
He's
Yeah,
28,
it was the
yeah.
last
Yeah.
second stand-in or
Yeah.
something like that.
But like, I remember I commented the game and I was like, the talent, Cajun B at the ripe age of 28.
Yeah, he was the Cajun A when
I feel like he
was
should
playing
be
on the
older.
first team.
Yeah, exactly. I thought he was like 32, but it's
Yeah,
like
he's
with
been around for a
Keto.
while.
Come on, don't do my boy Cajun like that. I love
Yeah,
him.
Cajun was a legend, bless him.
Bro,
but
I
yeah.
love him. I
Yeah.
was a North fan, you know. I was a North fan. I loved Cajun. When I started watching CS, he was playing on. They
What's
were still
that,
Dignitas.
man?
Was like MSO, Rubino,
Yeah,
Comfort,
that was good.
Megis. I love that lineup. But yeah,
Yeah, the
he's-
point I was making with Keto is that like he went down to the academy team, took up the IGL role, and just impressed the main team. And that's what we saw him being first used as a stand-in for one of Big's many's problem they've had because apparently they are the most unlucky team in 2022 when it comes to fielding a full 5 roster. But it's like he actually used the academy roster as like what's the word? Like he just used it to help him and like actually show that like look I can do better. And then in return you've seen like Crimbo as well as step up from that roster, and you see that in like a few like MIBR Academy you had. Completely forgot his name, but you did have someone go up from the academy roster to the main roster, and then like the Apex Rebels team, and I know Ents have like really good support behind them. Apex Rebels, like they went to fucking America, came second in Fragadelphia. Like you have got some good stuff, and then I look at like Fury Academy, the Godsend Academy. I look at like the other teams that are like, oh, like what's happening here? Like,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely feel like you know, to just kind of quickly breeze on
OG
that as
Academy
well. If you are maybe one of these academy teams, I think that, you know, and you're planning on or well, one of the orgs that have an academy team, if you are planning on genuinely like using the players and not just sort of there, you know, to show face as it were and be like, oh look, we've got an academy team, and you know, some of the other orgs as well are dipping into the women's scene and everything, you know, and just trying to sort of show themselves everywhere and increase their sphere of influence and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
If they are genuinely looking to use these players in future, I think the way to do it, yeah, is maybe like you're saying, sort of the big academy where you get someone in there who's pretty experienced, play good fundamental Counter-Strike, because that will scale up, you know, if you don't quite have the mechanics. Ultimately, to a certain point, can be worked on. You know, that extra, literally like 1% is maybe genetic, but you can, you know, continue to work on that. Confidence is a big thing in CS with mechanics, in my opinion. You know, all that sort of stuff. But if you are, because there are, yeah, like the Na'Vi way of doing things or whatever seems to be, let's get some shit hot players. And maybe they're better than everyone else in the academy, but that's not quite going to scale up. That's not quite going to be replicable on you know, tier 1 teams and stuff. And the honestly, man, the jackpot that they hit with Bit and then Munacy as well, I don't know that we're really going to see that kind of consistency, you know, come out. And
I'm just gonna
Yeah,
say
bit-
one
I think
name. I'm
I
just gonna
think we
say
will.
Nippo.
No,
I'm just gonna
I'll-
say Nippo,
Yeah.
and I want you to follow this guy. And I'm
Okay.
I'm not speaking about like Nippo as yeah, that's his nickname. I don't know why what the story is. By the way, I need to ask him, but
It's a
yeah,
translation, to be honest, probably more than anything. Just like he
you
has a
think?
name in Russian. I would assume there's probably just like a oh shit.
Actually,
that's what it means.
I'm actually gonna Google this. I really want to see. I really
Yeah,
want to see
okay,
what
so
Nippo
what
is.
so what you're going like Skriv, I'll actually disagree with you when you're saying like when we're not gonna see maybe like a we're not gonna see like another bit or Monacy just like resurge out of nowhere. I feel like that's like it just seems like every single other day it's like we're just seeing more and more.
Yeah, no, okay. So, in fairness, I'm not quite clear enough. I meant from the one organization. Yeah,
Oh,
if
okay,
that
yeah.
makes sense. If that makes
Yeah,
sense, I
so
think
like
there will
just from
be a spread of that. But the fact that Na'Vi are able to go, okay, here's Bit, and move him up, and he's sick and wins a major, and is even battling for like the top spot of that team sometimes. And then also Munacy. Now the thing is as well, it's like Munacy was there for a little while, mechanically amazing, but was G2 what more does he bring? You know what I mean? It's like there are a lot of amazing mechanical players at the top level, and maybe they need him to bring a bit more of that team structure experience already lined up, and etc. fitting into the top level team. And yeah, he's kind of struggled, and there were a couple games in there where he didn't look fantastic, right? In the RMR that they obviously dropped out of. So I think it's things like that you need to build up kind of from the ground up and get him a bit more team-based experience, because I think that's something that he's learning right now. And G2 have many problems. Yeah, Munacy is not at the top of that list, but it certainly is something to consider, I think.
Yeah.
By the way, Academy League, big plus. We like Academy League.
Oh,
Yeah, absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
And it's
A
a
lot of
much better,
respect.
just the one-for-one trading and moving up and everything. It seems a lot smoother now.
It's
whereas
going in a good trajectory as well.
No,
It's just getting better and better.
WePlay are doing a sick thing. I'm just waiting for
Yeah.
the moment when WePlay are gonna be able to do some tier 1 events as well, organize some tier 1 events in CS, because I feel like their production is
Would
just at a
they?
really high level. I hope they would. I don't know, and I'm honestly really thankful to be working with them on a second season in a row. Obviously, I'm not
sure.
gonna be doing so many games, I believe now. But it's like, because when it was summer break, I think it was just me, Jack, and then Lucy and Brandon just doing the entire group stage. It's like 4 casters, which is crazy. Now we have, I think Dweg and Jay are gonna pick up a lot more games, but it's still like a lot of love to WePlay. They're great guys. Obviously, prayers for them for what's happening right now in terms of the Ukraine
awful,
and
isn't
Russia
it?
situation.
Yeah.
I actually don't want to speak about it so much here, because it's like, obviously I don't
It's
want to
probably
really
not.
get
It's
politics
not the
into
place
it.
to talk about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. But it's still like we still pray for them to be good, because they're lovely people, lovely guys, and yeah, we just hope they're gonna be safe. But what they're doing for the CS like environment overall is in the ecosystem is just great, because it gives teams a lot more, like it gives academy players a lot more exposure, and then teams can actually do their research a lot easier, right? Because it's not like you're not only getting your intel on the basis of like some open qualifiers or some mixes, as Skriv said and Freddie said as well. It's like you see them perform in official games, right? You see them perform in a tournament. You see how they react in certain situations. You see how they do in a team environment. And it's not even like the entire idea. Obviously, the purpose is we drill a team, we train a team that's going to be able to replace our main team, and some of the players are going to be able to replace some of the players from our main team, right? But in the meantime, it gives a lot of chances to organizations that don't have academy teams to actually scout players. It's a lot easier like that. You can just tune in and watch their games every single day. That's a lovely way to scout. You don't need to ask people. Well, obviously you're still gonna talk to people. You're gonna ask about like mental traits and stuff like that, like behavior and all of that, work ethic. But it's gonna be a lot easier to get to the gameplay and see how they do in a professional environment, which is kind of sick. It does contribute to seeing a lot of those younger guys break through the mold. But speaking about breaking through the mold, I think the NA RMR is our next destination, gentlemen. And sure. I think there's been a couple teams that did manage to break through the mold. And I'm going to kick things off with one that might not be the most serious one. But I still am really happy that we saw that. What are you going to say about Semphis and his boys?
Oh, I have no. I'll be honest. I don't know a huge much about them. All I know is that they bombed out of Philadelphia, and now apparently they're good.
No, I don't know anything about the players.
Yeah,
Don't misunderstand me.
neither.
But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love
I mean,
Sentis.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
he
yeah.
looks
The
great.
stuff he was saying,
He
man,
looks
the stuff he was
fantastic.
Man,
saying
he
was
became
so
a chat.
funny.
I remember him. Like back in the day,
He's
Sempis
huge,
wasn't
man.
that jacked. He wasn't
Bro,
that jacked
he
back in the
is
days.
buff.
Yeah. It's sick. No, it's sick. I mean, I know there was a bit of a maybe a few years ago now. He's been on it for a while, right? But this
Yeah.
is obviously like a pretty big field, and you get some great pictures of you taken and stuff like that. But I know that he's definitely been on the fitness grind for a good while.
Man. Did you
Let's
see
give
his
him credit
meal
for how
prep?
long it's been, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like brought it, mate. Yeah, it's
boxes
brought
and
it-
boxes of food.
I'll tell you, that is like the hardest thing, you know, having
Yeah.
done like a handful of lands and stuff. It definitely is, you know, they're getting better that there's catering and stuff, but even then,
it's not getting better.
it's just sort of
It's
like
not getting
it's
better.
you know, when I
It's
did
so
Valencia, it was
bad.
pretty good, and the catering wasn't crazy. It wasn't like
Yeah.
super unhealthy and all that. Maybe it is something that, you know, that's also small student. So if you go to like a
Yeah,
proper
I was
land,
gonna
maybe
say-
it's harder because, you know, you arrive a bit late and food's gone, or most of it's been eaten, or whatever, if you've had a long series. But also it's the temptation's still just there when you've had like a 12-hour day or whatever, and everyone's like, should we go out for a Mackey's or something? Should we go for some drinks? And then that kind of leads to like food or whatever. So a big respect to, because as well, I think you have to, as a player and talent and all that, you know, fitness obviously is very important, and health and all that good stuff, you know, always kind of on that grind myself. Yeah, you have to be able to do
flex on us, by the way, a little bit previously.
Oh, what, when I was
15 minutes ago, yeah.
you know,
Yeah, they're just like
just
yeah,
chilling.
look,
But,
look
yeah.
at these bad boys.
Like, you see the tattoos, guys? Yeah, I'm sick.
Yeah,
yeah,
Oh,
well,
yeah,
it's
you
the
get a
face,
tattoo
it's
like
the
that,
face
that was
tattoo,
good.
isn't it? I don't
Oh,
know.
you have a face
Face
tattoo?
actually.
Creeps
Wait,
yeah, have you
what?
not seen this? Have you
No,
not
I
seen
haven't.
this?
Oh, that's sick, actually. That was great. Okay.
I lost. You know, Zark's Observer. He was like,
Yeah.
you know, if FaZe win Kato when
Yeah.
they had, you know, JKS standing in it, I'll get a tattoo. And I said I'd do the same, and then of course they won. So, you know, gotta be a man of your word. So yeah,
That's fair. 'Cause that's actually fair. Yeah, I mean, like I will say, every time I go to an event, I feel like I come back and I have just like 3 days where my stomach just goes into turmoil.
yeah.
Like events do, like so you do like it's so. It's so hard to eat well. Like obviously you're saying like Valencia is fine, but like you've got like 10, 15 people there in total. Like I think it's easy to cater for that. But when you're at like an Epic Land, for instance, and
Yeah.
food, like you're eating like just utter shit for like 4 days pretty much in a row.
Yeah.
And it does, and like you're getting no sleep, an abundance of alcohol, all of it just kind of like into one. It just like it always I don't think I've ever come back from an event and I've felt like fine.
I don't think I'd have that problem, to be fair. I'm quite the opposite. Like I'm a guy that's gonna be. I think the chances are bigger of me just standing by myself at home and ordering some junk food than just going to an event and doing that. Because like when I know I've been working for such a long time and I'm tired as fuck, I'm just like, I get a salad, I'm gonna sleep like a king. Or if I get a steak or something. If I get like, I don't like when I'm fully dressed out and like out of home, out of my comfort zone and stuff like that. I don't really feel comfortable eating like burgers and pizza and stuff like that. I prefer something that's gonna, like, something more healthy that's gonna give me energy, and I'm gonna be like, okay, you know what? At least I'm not wasting myself here. But you know, I get the point. I feel like this is something that a lot of people go through. But it's you know, as I like to say, you know, if this is your biggest problem, then you're fine.
Sure, yeah, that is true.
You
That
go
is
to
very
all
true.
the
Should we go
lands,
back to
if
the
your
actual-
biggest problem is drinking beer
Yeah, maybe.
and having fun and having a nice snack, well, then you're
It's like,
more
oh
than fine.
no, no, I'm enjoying myself. No,
Oh, no,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm having a
it.
great
You get
time.
caught up in it. Yeah.
Also, should we go back to my heroes of the South American and North American CS?
Yeah,
So I
sure.
think-
Sure.
I think Ted knows about this. I'm a big fan of South American CS. I've been converted. It's the love of my life.
Me and you, I think it's a safe
It's
assumption
so-
to make that
it's so
myself and
much.
Freddie have been up till 2 or 3 a.m. more
We did
for watching
so
South American
much.
CS than we have been to chat to girls in the
Oh,
past
no,
1 year.
Yeah.
guarantee,
For sure.
No, I actually guarantee that the amount of South American CS we had to do and the little amounts I talked to women, Like it adds up.
You know, he lied about the previous. He lied about the second one. That was a massive lie. He is the player and a half already.
Silence. But yeah, like it's really cool to see a team like Isurus who have gone full Argentinian after replacing like their best players to then still do well. And the team, because like they're like struggling regionally, and for them to go here and like knock out MIBR is really huge, because MIBR is you know, serious team. They came to Europe. They didn't shit the bed in Pro League, or did they shit the bed in Pro? Like either way, like they were doing like, they're a team that was in Pro League. They won that like CCT Central Europe, where, okay, granted, not the best competition, but you know, they're still doing quite well against European squads. And for Isurus to also knock out Arctic as well, who are quite experienced roster, I think that is really interesting for a team like that, who haven't got a star-studded performer, who haven't got a star-studded lineup. They haven't got the KNGs, the Hennies, like all those, like, you know, players that have played at tier 1. And I think it's a really interesting, because the Isurus roster, I'm pretty sure, is like ridiculously big. Like it's stupidly big. They've got like 7 different esports. And I remember they like the old roster was in Europe, and they really impressed me. With especially their Orpa Cafolo, who now plays for Pavella, something like that.
Yeah.
He, like, that's now a full Brazilian team, and they actually didn't make it to the minor. So I think that kind of like makes the difference of like these two teams, both of them, but they're split off, but they're still very interesting. And then like the 9Z team is really, I'm just very happy to see them still doing well, even though they've had their play, like they had who was it, the guy who plays for 00 Nation now, they had TR. Oh, who was
Try, aren't you thinking?
Try?
Try,
Yeah. They had Try poached off them, and they're still able to do well, even considering like they kind of like. I saw Try leave, and I just went like, oh, like, that's it. Like that's like you've taken your like fundamental core out of like the guy that made your team almost. But no, apparently not. I was wrong. Like they done well. Like the teams they beat as well. Like they beat 00 Nation, they beat Imperial, they beat ATK. Those are some serious names, and I think they like that's so. It's just cool to see like these teams. And again, they don't have this star-studded lineup, but you look at 00 Nation. Like you got fucking Coldzera Taco, and like obviously they're gonna do well. Look at 9Z. Like if you don't know the roster, if you don't know the region, you're gonna look at like who's NQZ, who's Max, who's DJT. Like you won't know those names.
Sure.
And it's nice to see, because I think like in South America there's a big like recycling. You see these players just hanging around, and they're just not doing well, and they need to be almost removed. And you are now starting to see a lot of these lesser inexperienced teams start to do better, because it is more fresh blood. And like MIBR Academy and the WePlay League, that's really cool for them. So like it's nice to see a new stance now in the South American scene.
Yeah. I think Pain was a really good team. I'm actually like, obviously I can't be disappointed, because like I'd say that Furia deserved to be playing at the major more than Pain do. But in the end of the day, I was a bit disappointed to see that, and I'd say like Imperial. I prefer seeing Imperial at the stage, but in the meantime, I feel like Pain Gaming is just the future of Brazilian CS. Like those guys were sick. I was
Skulls is unreal, man.
Yeah, those guys are just a good team. To be fair, I feel like it's really hard to go out of the South American region and make a name for yourself of a team that's really structured and just playing good CS. You know, measured CS. I think they've been able to find the balance between being, you know, hyper crazy, aggressive, reckless, and playing by the book. I think they're doing a good job at this, and I feel like they are the better team out of them and Imperial. I truly believe they're the better team, but it's like when you're playing at a stage like that, when you're playing for something like that, there's no way Imperial losing games to those guys. It's you could see like Imperial. It's obviously I want us actually to get through all the other teams before we get into them, because we have a lot of things to speak about, including Fur and Fallen, obviously. But I feel like when it's pretty much the same with Mouse. If they did, like, for example, let's say they didn't play Sango in the deciding game, but they had to play I don't know, not even a Navi or someone like that, maybe a Big. Let's say if they had to play Big to qualify, they'd probably lose that game, or Heroic, because of the lack of experience, but they're still like a really good team, right? I think this is what happened to Pain. I think this is what happened to Complexity as well. it's just like when you're playing a game of such magnitude against those guys, it's always gonna be tough. But I still was highly impressed by Pain. I think they did a really good job, and I'm actually like I think they were my favorite teams, bar. I'd say maybe my favorite team from the South American region right now, bar I'd say obviously Imperial and 9Z. I like 00 Nation as well, but Pain they've highly impressed me.
Yeah, there's a lot here. There is an awful lot. I mean, the Americas, RMR felt like it had the best storylines for me. You know, in terms of like who's going to make it and heartbreak at the end and all. You know, but also just massive elation and a great story for like that final game was just crazy. You know what I mean? And the stakes feel fantastic. To be honest with you, I think we should maybe look. It's a good little format. It's very tough. You know, RMR A, RMR B for EU. There's a lot of teams there. Format is a little wackier, you know. And they're just sort of on top of each other as well. You don't really know which RMR you're watching technically if you're just a kind of casual viewer.
It's hard to keep up even as a non-casual viewer.
Well,
There's so much going on.
There was so many times I was just confused. I opened HOTV with the scores and I'm like, what game's next? What group is that? And I'm like, wait, Monte are playing Vitality? I swear they weren't in the same group.
Yeah. It does. It all gets very conflated. So I feel like we definitely need a bit of a switch up in EU. Maybe bring back the CIS RMR, perhaps. I don't know. And it just needs a few more storylines on EU. But that was definitely the thing for me on the Americas one. It's like every game felt like it was really gripping. And maybe that does feed into the fact that, you know, we have for the first time the Brazilian major. It's going to be massive, extended crowd involvement and all that, you know, due to popular demand and goalless with the viewer experience and all that. These are things that hopefully set a precedent and hopefully come in for the big tournaments. You know, Cologne, I'm sure, if they did crowd on all the days, maybe not full capacity crowd or whatever, you know, just sort of one of the arms of the arena or a different spot or whatever it may be. But I'm sure they would get people going along, or, you know, maybe you have the sort of the studio angle that they usually do, which I would imagine is somewhere in the arena, and then, you know, try and put some screens up outside and get people to pay a little bit of a fee, a cheaper fee perhaps, to catch some group stage games, hang out with the mates and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure that so hopefully that sets a really good precedent. But yeah, the I don't know, it's hard. I would have loved Complexity to go through. I like the team. Jason Lake, I think, has done an awful lot for NA esports and Counter-Strike in particular.
People don't realize how much he's done. People don't quite realize.
He's really invested in esports.
Mate, he's been around longer than I've been born. He's literally been around longer than I've been alive. Like, it's ridiculous. And he's just always continuously there. And sorry, I don't want to cut you off on that.
No, it's all good.
It's like, people don't realize, like, this man, like, what he's done. I'd say he's probably, especially after the CGS, he is kind of the main reason why NA Counter-Strike and NA esports in first-person shooters actually just came back. Like, the whole sphere of Counter-Strike died after CGS in America in 2008, and he was one of the main reasons why it actually just didn't die. And, like, I think people just don't quite, because he almost doesn't, like, he doesn't care. Like, he's like, oh yeah, like, okay.
Yeah, I like CS. I'm gonna continue pursuing that.
Yeah.
He had a lot of moments when I'd actually find it logical for Complexity to step out of CS, right? But he didn't. He's just like, yeah, I wanna work here. I wanna have a team here. I wanna be competitive, which is, you know, props to him. And it was a little bit disappointing what happened to Complexity, but we're gonna get to that in just a couple seconds with Imperial. I actually want to hear your thoughts on something, because obviously I don't think Liquid qualifying was a surprise to anybody. I think this is something that all of us could see that's gonna come through. But EG, give me your thoughts on EG.
I was surprised.
I think going through that cleanly.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, this is a team. Part of the issue, I think you do have to remove the international EG versus the domestic EG. Yeah. I think that domestically they still have some of the best players in the region, including South America as well. Yeah. It's just kind of like it looked like internationally, the drive and the energy and all, and it's like, I think why a lot of people, especially again, you know, pundits and people who have a closer eye, had such a problem is that they are a partnered team. right? So it's like they can rest on their laurels for a while and not get punished as heavily, not get, relegated or whatever, right? So I think that's why a lot of people really did scrutinize this squad. But I do feel for me, domestically, I don't know that they ever really would have had any problems. Saying that, I will address, Neokai, I like to have a bit of fun with them. Neokai's, little leaderboard competition type thing. I did put them to actually not make it. So I will say that. But when I have to really put my money where my mouth is, that kind of thing, like I say, you might as just have a bit of fun with it and see what happens. And, you only need 70% right to get the diamond coin or something like that in game. So I went on that same sort of logic. But I will say, speaking seriously, I think that they, for me, would always have been fine. But not losing out is a bit of a rare one. I don't know. It's definitely a time in an RMR where they can kind of abuse and find a few gaps. Other than Liquid, it feels like the field is not very solid at all. Fury are struggling and have got some shakiness in their complexity. Clearly, a bit inconsistent. And then you also, again, you come into a tournament, it's totally different energy because you've got a number of teams here, Brazilian squads, that are going to be trying their little hearts out, you know what I mean? And really, really, really bringing the A game. And I think that makes them difficult to deal with. So, a super clean finish here. And it's good to see some of their, pieces looking better. I don't know that they make it deep in the major, whereas Liquid are perfectly capable of that for me.
Yeah.
But it's good to see. It's nice. It's like, okay, things are finally looking up and finally working, and maybe their methodology is a bit silly, but they are trying to hold together NA Esports, in a similar way that we've just kind of talked about Jason Lake, right?
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily have to, because they have that League of Legends spot and all that good stuff. Probably I think they've got a Valorant spot as well on the way, if I'm not mistaken. It's still good to see that they didn't just go, okay, we got revive the old boys. It didn't work. All right, see ya. That definitely could have been a path for them, but they have kind of stuck around, and it's starting to pay off a little bit. I think that making the major is nice for them, but I don't know that it goes any deeper than that.
This is why I think, just what you, I know that the phrase was, trying the little hearts out from Brazilian squads. This is why I think there should be two, or just, more for NA to offer, because you have other teams in America that would really benefit by being here. And I think, the experience that it brings is so huge. And it's I know, for instance, in Brazil, I don't, I'll be fair, I'm not too familiar with, the North American side of it, because I honestly don't care. But with South America, there's a good 6-7 Brazilian teams that or South American teams that I know that are at the same level, or maybe just on the day, whereas not good as for instance an Isurus that made it through, an Arctic, those type of teams. There's a lot at that same level.
By the way, with Phelps.
Yeah, Fluxo. Yeah, they came, they've won that CCT. They came second in CCT.
Yeah, they're gonna be in Rotterdam as well. I think it's their first international LAN. That's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, they've been owning it, and then you've just got 9Z. I wouldn't even consider one of the better teams in South America, just because they do struggle sometimes against the teams like Fluxo. Those teams are very similar, and Pain and stuff like that. And then Odic as well, who 2-0'd Isurus coming into this, and it's you've got those it's such a close knit community where there's 8 teams that are so even matched, and then they have barely any spots that can actually go to the RMR.
Yeah.
And it's why are we actively denying a region visibility when it's notoriously had that problem? That's the main problem with this, with these regions, is oh shit, look, we play we're so segregated and we can't, and then when you give us an opportunity, you give us such a small opportunity, and then fucking look at Oceania, you got 4 teams. What is that? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of the conversation here is possibly about bringing back secured spots for the next major, depending on how you perform.
Yeah.
But that's
At
a difficult
for
one,
the
man.
winner. I think at least for the winner.
Yeah.
you should.
Yeah,
At
if
least
you
for
win,
the winner,
yeah,
man. Like,
I think, or finalists maybe.
Even if you don't
Yeah.
wanna, even if you don't wanna have like back in the days, obviously you had. I think it was like you had 4 or 8 teams that all of the teams
Yeah,
that
the
made it into the
Legends.
playoffs were already in the legend stage, right? So
Yeah.
everyone else was fighting for 8
Yeah.
spots in the legends, which made it a little bit tough. But even if you don't want to bring that back, at least secure a spot for the winner, if not for both finalists, if not for the semi-finalists. Like, I think 1 up to 4 teams is gonna be all right on that manner, just to make sure that obviously that has some credibility, right? Because like, obviously, yeah, okay, you've won the crown, you've won the throne, you've won the money, you've won the most prestige tournament and the most prestigious tournament in CS history, but you want to have some kind of advantage for the next one because of the win. And it's like that in every single traditional sport, right? If you win, like, there's no way you win, like, Champions League and you don't participate in next year's edition, right? It's simply going to be... It is simply, for me, by the way, it's a little bit horrendous because you're not given a chance to... You might not be given a chance to defend your crown.
Yeah, I think a change in the major format could be I think should be coming in, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. I don't think it's an unreasonable thing to maybe suggest some sort of change for like the major format, because like with Europe, we talk about how amazing it is, like all these underdog stories, because they just get so much opportunity. Like, it's ridiculous how much they do, and then it's like, oh, but like what about the rest? Like, okay, like, yeah, and then it's just like you see all these like the fancy teams, and that like that Relax lad from Netherlands, as like he like is impressed. He was incredible at the RMR. He was so just good, and it's like, oh, like he's got that because they have like 22 teams from Europe that's able to go.
Yeah, it is a little bit crazy. I don't know. I'm thinking, don't want to dwell on it for too long because, you know, whenever I end up talking about format on podcasts, it goes everywhere. You know what I mean?
It's hard to
No,
talk about.
I've already accepted the fact we're
yeah.
gonna go above 2 hours every single time.
Oh yeah, you're fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first time I was thinking it's gonna be
That's
like
why
an
we
hour
started so
and a
early,
half.
'cause I've got,
No chance.
That's the reason
yeah.
why we started so early, because I gotta go. I've got college in an hour.
Yeah,
So.
by the way, Freddie's still pretending that he's into studies. I don't know how he's fooled his parents about this one, but apparently it's working.
I do 4 hours a week of class, because I only go to my mandatory stuff.
Yeah,
I haven't been to a single lecture this semester.
You can get them all online now, right? Like,
yeah, like I physically just can't. Like, it's like I just don't have any time to do anything because of like how busy casting is, and then like the sleep schedule, you're going.
Yeah, I think drinking, going out drinking every other night contributes to that sleeping schedule.
I go out once a night. I go out once.
Once a night.
Wait.
Yeah, great slip there, man.
Yeah, that's the Irish people. Yeah,
I do go. I like it's also like what makes being at university so like good. Because like when I was at home in summer, like I just did nothing but esports, and now I'm like, oh, like I can actually like do stuff after I finish work, which just makes it so much better. So like, why don't I just do that then?
Yeah, for sure. No, I was very similar when I was in my third and final year. So, you know, which is maybe the worst year for it to all pan out. I guess you've got a couple more years to like figure out the balance and stuff. But I didn't quite have that. But no, yeah, on sort of where the format. I don't know. I was just to throw like a take out there. Maybe we do like regional RMR to start with, and then the teams that like qualify, you know, who place really well in those RMRs, maybe go into another pool kind of thing, and then
that'd be really cool.
Play internationally for spots in, you know, the legends or whatever, and you guaranteed a spot in contenders or whatever, and then if you place lower down, you go to as you already do. But I think that instead of just getting a guaranteed legends for doing well, maybe you should really have to battle for that legend spot, and then it feels yeah, I don't know. If we've got 6 from NA, it's like 2 of those teams go into is it Challengers, the first one? Challengers.
Challengers
then Contenders, then Legends, right? So the bottom 2 go Challengers, I don't. Yeah, I think so.
There's no contenders anymore.
It's just challenges to legends.
Yeah. Contenders. I think contenders.
Changes
like,
Old man
every
can't.
major,
The
I
old
don't know,
man can't
man.
keep
I
up.
don't know.
yeah.
I don't know. Back in my days when I was a young blood, there was.
Well, I think the
whole
thing
lot
is as well.
different.
Like, I will stand by. I think on like Liquipedia they have like the nomenclature. At least for the
They're
past couple
equally
majors,
confused,
it's
Yeah.
like
to be honest.
it's like wrong. But then, yeah, when you go and do your pick'ems, you know, or whatever,
Man, it was
yeah.
so much easier when we had a minor. I mean,
a little bit.
I love them.
Yeah.
Because the minor is the RMR, like it's identical. No?
yeah. It's pretty much
Pretty
the same.
similar.
It's
I don't know that
I
they
don't know
did.
why they changed the names,
the
though.
formats. The formats definitely were different. Or whatever,
Yeah,
but,
it wasn't. It wasn't Swiss system. It wasn't Swiss system. But speaking about
I
the
don't know.
format, because there was like there was a pretty interesting thing for me is the fact that you get 3 wins in the Americas RMR. Obviously, as you know, only 6 teams qualify. It's not like in the EU ones where half of the teams proceed. So you have to play a bonus BO3, and this is something that Imperial had to go through. Now, before I get your thoughts on Imperial, obviously I'm gonna go through a bit of an abridgment on what happened the past couple weeks for them. Now, Imperial going into this RMR, Fallen did have a really long tweet posted on social media. I'm not sure if you've seen that. It was in Portuguese as well, so you had to you kind of had to translate it. But I went through all of it, and from what I've seen, and from an interview that Fur actually did, that was published on HOTV I think 2 days ago, we saw that actually both Fallen and Fur are thinking about this being their last tournament, which is gonna be that's gonna be an entirely different love story. I mean, that has to be the best storyline we've ever had in CS:GO history, because like
I think
you
to
have
correct you a little bit on that one,
Yeah.
Fallen said by the end of, I think he said by the end of next year, definitely retire.
Okay, yeah, but he said that this could be one of his last tournaments, right?
I think he said if he didn't qualify, he was going to call it, and same with FNX.
Yeah.
FNX didn't even want to come to the RMR.
Yeah.
He's not really a coach, is he? He's just sort of like
he's a
guy.
motivator. Yeah, he's just there out of respect. And Fur said that he actually had some personal issues a couple months ago, and he wanted to quit the team. But then everyone else just were like, you know what? We don't want to leave you behind. We want you with us on that journey. We're gonna figure things out. We're gonna stay at home a little bit longer. We're gonna cut off our boot camp a little bit. You're gonna have 1 more week at home. We're not gonna travel so much. We're gonna stay in Brazil and stuff like that, you know, make it a bit more comfortable for him to be able to stay in the team and figure out his personal issues and problems, which is cool. But you know, the Fur and Fallen being so chill and calm about the idea of ending their career, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think it's completely logical and natural. You know, they've been playing the game for fuck long, for so many years. But it just shows us that this might be, I think this could be their last major. This could be their last big tournament. And it's just so poetic that they get to play it in Rio. You know, this is, it's Fur's, it's Fur's city as well. He was born there. And it's like, it's their home country. So I guess that's gonna be the best storyline of this major. No wonder why a lot of people actually, it's not even hated Complexity, but a lot of people hope that Complexity would lose in that last game, including myself. Even though I like Complexity, I was just like, please lose the game. I mean, you're gonna have chances to play more majors. I like you guys. I like the fact that you apparently you've worked hard. You've been a lot better in these previous like month 2, I'd say, than you were before the break. But again, like, give Fallen for a chance to play their last major. Like, I want to see them in front of the crowd.
The thing with Complexity, what was really interesting is that they signed Hauzerk, and firstly, before Blast, I think it was like give or take maybe around like 2 weeks before Blast, he got signed. He goes to Mexico. He's living by himself in like apparently Godsent owned a mansion in Mexico, and like he was living by himself there. New country. I'm pretty sure JT wasn't in America yet. He was still, because it was the player break, he was still in South Africa.
Yeah.
So was their coach. Their coach actually never came to America before Blast. He met them in Copenhagen, which, okay, I guess not that big of a deal. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But the fact that JT had come to America like maybe like a couple days before Blast, and then they've got Blast. Also, when Hauzerk was playing in Mexico, he was playing on like 80 ping. He played the RMR qualifiers like 80 ping, and he was doing pretty much like everything on like around 80 ping. Man's gone from like having 20 ping as bad in EU to 80 as a normal consistent. And like he has slotted into that role really nicely because you got to consider it as like they went from he's like completely just gone into this new atmosphere and like he's done super well to be able to adjust to that, and the team as well. It looks like it's like from my perspective, that team, it's just gonna get better and better. Like they like Grim is looking so ridiculously good. Floppy as well. Where's that come from?
The energy's just way better. Yeah, I think motivation definitely kicked up. I hope that they can keep it. I hope that it doesn't drop off now that they didn't make it, and that is obviously very disheartening. But yeah, I resonate with what you're saying. They're a fantastic looking team, and Halzok seems to have given them the kick that they kind of need. And it's a tough landscape when you don't have like a solid AWPer or whatever, right? It feels like you're just stuck in a rut at the end of the day. And I think it was a really weird situation because it seemed like there was a ceiling for Junior, and then he couldn't reach it at all internationally. But domestically, he'd like ruin everyone. So I think they were, very frustrated by that. And it's like, it's hard. It's like, don't want to get angry, don't want to, and you just don't want that in a team, really. So the best thing and the kindest thing to do is to just sort of cut him away. And then just rely on this new guy to come in who is amazing off the press. So I like the look of the team. Again, as we've all said, big fans of the org, big fans of the squad, and it is a shame that they don't make it. But there's only so many spots. I think one thing I will give to them, it feels like the teams that they played were a bit tougher. They did have some really kind of tough matchups there for sure towards the end, and they were in a pretty good spot. If they beat 0-0 Nation, things like that, like they may well have made it through, but unfortunately just not quite close enough. It's sad. It is sad. And if they were in EU, then they make it on that format, but obviously that's not the case. But,
I was
Which is why,
disappointed
like,
because
they
they did well with
deserve,
Pro League as well.
Yeah, like EG
I'd say they
deserve
deserve
to
a
go
spot,
through.
sure.
Yeah.
I feel like they've been really. It's again, it's like it feels like just being robbed. It's like they deserve to go through. And it's like and they also did they who played Pain? Was it Imperial or did they play Pain? There was like a few
Imperial.
matches. Was it Imperial?
Imperial played.
Yeah. So I guess like Imperial have had to play 2 extra best of 3s to go through. It's like that's a lot of that's a lot of CS. Like
it's
both-
kind of it is
both
it is
on the
but it's
same
also,
day.
I think it's also that's true. But I think it's also nice because it does speak towards, like you're saying, with deserving the spot. Imperial, there's no kind of dispute. They might come towards the bottom end of the qualification teams, but and I think if you've had a bad start to the tournament, you should kind of have to battle back pretty heavily. I don't know. The 2 in the same day is a little wacky maybe, but that's just kind of the way that
because the second was a long best of 3. Late.
But
it
it
was
had
like
to
it
be
was
like
late
that.
for us.
I mean, I feel like obviously you're gonna be disappointed of
And
missing
have
out the
to,
major, but even looking at the reaction from the Complexity players after the BO3, I think all of them realized that they just took part in one of the most exciting BO3s we've ever had in a major qualifier, right? Outside of the major, like that was a sick game. And even though you're disappointed with losing it, I feel like at the end of the day they were just like, fair enough. Like it was a close game. We lost it. We might have won it, but we just didn't, which is again really unfortunate for Complexity. But I'm gonna continue like repeating the same thing. I feel like I'm a lot happier for Imperial making it through because I wanted to watch those guys. But I hope Complexity bounce back. They've been doing a really good job in recent history since adding Helzerk. They've been on a different level, I feel like.
Hakon.
Which is what?
His name's called. He's called Hakon. I just find it really funny. I don't know why. I like just like saying his name.
Okay, Freddie. That was one of the most random things I've heard from you. No, I'm actually kidding. It's not even a contender. But
I was gonna say you've heard some wild stuff from it.
I've
You've
heard wild stuff.
You've heard some
but we can't say it
stuff.
on here. We can't say it on here.
No. We can't.
But gentlemen, before getting into the tier list, because that's gonna be our final task of the day.
Sure.
I want to hear your thoughts on obviously what is the Blast Showdown gonna mean for some of those teams, because some of the teams that are gonna be playing on the major are gonna be playing
This
the
the
Blast
online
Showdown
one
as well. I I think it is online.
I think it's
yeah,
online.
It is
yeah,
online.
or it's like
It is online.
mini land maybe.
No,
I'm
no,
not
no.
sure.
It is online. It is online. I
Yeah?
think it is.
Okay.
Yeah. And we have
Yeah, yeah.
one for NA, and then we have one for EU plus Asia, where Tyler are going to be playing. By the way, I was a bit disappointed to see that Bentet.
Yeah, it's going to be. I'm
no
sure they
Ben
qualified
Ted.
through, right? But like, yeah, this is the Tyloo that like forfeited the entire season of ECL and shit like that. So I really don't know what to expect from this team.
Yeah, and you
Neither.
have Letney as a coach, bro. Like that's the most random
Yeah,
thing
it's wacky,
ever.
in it.
Yeah, that's when you
mate,
start a
the
FIFA
money
career
he got
mode,
paid.
like FIFA career mode, 5 seasons in, and random transfers just start happening. This is Letney being the coach of Tyloo.
I have a few things to say about Tyloo because I
Yeah.
think with Letney, what I saw and what I heard a little bit was that because you can't go to a country like China and implement EU tactics because fundamentally it's nothing against those players, but they don't play that same level of CS. They don't have that same ability, and they don't have because it's like they don't have that culture of being like we're surrounded by the best players. Like we're lucky we're surrounded by the best players every single day, so you're learning so much from that. They just don't have that, and I think that was the problem that Letney had at first. And from what I've seen, it seems to have shifted into a very successful way. And then they went to the RMR because like China did like they did open qualifiers, then closed qualifiers,
Yeah.
and then whoever won that went to the Oceania RMR. And I'm pretty sure Tyloo came dead last. And I think I casted both their games, and it was just like they looked good. They had really good like Vertigo. I remember they had, like their flashes were unreal. Like team play was good. Like it was nice, and then they just lost. And I was like, how are you losing to a team like Wings Up, who are good, but you shouldn't be losing to them? So it's a very interesting one with Tyloo, but it's really, this is going to be, these experiences for them are so important. Like winning those qualifiers means just so much because now they're going to be in Europe for like a month maybe, and their first game, look, they're playing against Vitality, they're playing against ESL Pro League winners. Like that experience is so fundamental for a development. And then what they do is they then bring that back to their region, and it's like an ecosystem that it keeps on going, and it's good, but we need more.
Yeah, it's unlucky for them that it's single elimination bracket as well, right?
Yeah,
if there was
they
lower
might just
bracket,
lose and be out.
Yeah, that's gonna happen. I mean, I don't see a world where Tyloo beat Vitality in a BO3. Obviously, Vitality want to be playing the Blast finals after that, but yeah, I guess I haven't actually seen anything from Tyloo since removing Bentet. I haven't seen them play without roster.
They haven't.
But I don't
it
think
was
they
super
played
recent.
without him, right?
Yeah, super recent. Like, I think 2 weeks, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, really short timescale. Like I say, their domestic season's been in complete turmoil, just a total implosion. So I don't know. I really don't know what to expect from them. But on sort of the tournament in general, we'll see. I think Astralis are maybe trying to push their moves in before this tournament starts. I don't know. That's a pretty quick timeline. It would have to be all very fast and start of next week kind of thing. Maybe they are just going to play again with this sort of botched Mr. stand-in and everything. But it's cool. There's definitely a chance here for like a Sangal or whatever who kind of impressed at the RMR. They've just been expanded into Challenger as well. So I think that this could be a really cool tournament for them. They open up against Big. Probably will have to play Heroic. Maybe Ecstatic can show us something a bit more than they did at the RMR, but I'm not so sure.
Can I speak a little bit about Ecstatic?
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
okay, Flame in.
Flame, no, because I like these guys. Like that Masonic core of Cabby, Kragan, and whoever the fuck the guy is. They were playing for a month. They played a best of 3 every single day for like a month. Some days even had 2 or 3. Like, oh my god, that is, and they were doing well. It was like it was working. They go to Ecstatic. We seem to have this like you have Brazer coming in or Brazo, whatever his name. How do you pronounce it? And then you got Manx, the more experienced IGL. Like, this is looking good. They start off. They have RMR. They qualify for this. Then they go 0-3 in RMR. They lose online to Saw 0-2. They lose to Eyeballers 0-2. And then they get absolutely demolished by Prospects. What the fuck has happened to this team? They literally just got destroyed by an academy team that's been notoriously struggling. And like this academy team looked good against them. Maybe that's key fair. Prospects, they're looking decent more. But like Ecstatic, like what has happened to this roster?
Yeah.
They have just out of nowhere, literally within like 2 weeks, gone from being like, damn, this is interesting to just boom.
Yeah, I think it's like chemistry, isn't it? Right, we'll see what happens, but these are the moments that, indeed, test you to your maximum, really. when you get a bit ruined or whatever, and it's like the peaks and troughs of making the RMR and bombing out. So yeah, I don't know. I've not seen enough of this squad to really know what's going on, but I would imagine it's something along those lines that like maybe there are a few underlying issues. Maybe someone said something or done something, or is getting a lot of the blame for why they didn't look good or whatever. I don't know, but yeah, I mean it definitely does happen. Entropic is maybe one that springs to mind, not quite as massively, but they've also had kind of a downturn after what they narrowly missed out on playoffs, didn't they, at Antwerp? So, yeah.
Yeah, they were close. I think they started 2-0 in the main Swiss and then lost 3 BO3s in a row, I believe. And now they've changed the alien. They're trialing out down their kids as well. So they're going through a bit of a rebuild, but we'll see how it works out for them. Taking a look at the Americas RMR though, we have I think like obviously we have a team like Fluxo that me and Freddie mentioned earlier, being really exciting. Phelps playing in there, a couple other exciting names, but I think that's a good warm-up tournament for Ball of 00 Nation and EG. And I actually don't like the fact that they can meet in semis. I would have loved if they were to meet in finals.
Yeah.
In the same moment though, I think that's a really good chance for teams like Complexity, and even like an MIBR or even a Fluxo to kind of surprise and get a bit of a victory under their belt, considering that they're going to be missing out on the major, but at least get something to be happy about. I think for Complexity, that would be a massive boost of confidence. And I actually think this is maybe for all of the teams that are out there, I'd say Complexity would be the most disheartened if they were to actually lose here, because they get the easier bracket, obviously.
Oh, it's so much. I literally clocked how much easier that is.
Yeah, and then you're the only team out of like the let's say the 4 best teams or the 3 best teams here. Is you, EG, and 00 Nation, right? And you're the only one that's not going to be playing at the major, so you kind of want to find something to be happy about.
Yeah, 100%. I think as well for Fluxo, something we haven't really touched upon is how short of a time this team's been together. It's only since player break. There was a big
like
roster
2
shuffle.
months, I think.
Yeah, there's been in South America. There's a big roster. There was like just shuffles everywhere. Like it seemed like every single main roster made a change in some fashion over the player break, which I don't think I've never seen just like a region just completely shuffle and just new teams, just boom, new team.
Well, that's been South American CS, by the way, for forever.
True.
But we're just getting more exposure of it, I think, recently.
That's a good point. But I think that these type of tournaments just give they give chance for a team like Team One, with like more like you got Malbs who's been there for a while now.
Yeah.
Or actually, less actually, like same like 2 months or so. Like you're giving him a chance to shine in like on a big broadcast. And like imagine if like Fluxo beat EG, for instance. Like that's huge for them.
Yeah,
as a
speaking
team.
of mobs, you're hopping on that Elliot hype train.
I've taken his elo. He's shit.
Whoa, you've played mobs. Nice.
Yeah, I played because I pug with the
or you played Elliot. We need to clarify that because one of the two is a little bit harder than the other one.
No. I've played. Well, I mean, I play with Elliot. He brings down the elo.
Yeah, I actually played with Boomich yesterday, by the way, and I got him. Yeah, I got him troll me really hard. By the way, I didn't think that I'd find someone saying my name so amusing, but when you see the Theodor Borisov with the Russian accent and everything like that, was hilarious. Yeah, but I don't believe you beat Malps actually, but you know what?
I will literally find. I will find the.
You know what? Face it doesn't count, man. I beaten Monisy on.
He shit the bed. He like properly shit the bed as well. He was like really bad.
Yeah. Okay. So Freddy's on smoke today. Freddy's here to take off heads, and he doesn't really.
It's not even smoke. It's just facts.
Hands in the air. You don't really care, but.
Let me find this.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. But as you're searching for that Face It game that probably didn't really happen. Moving into the last tournament I want us to touch upon before getting into the tier list. I actually wanted to it's gonna be the ESL Challenger, the DreamHack Rotterdam one that's gonna take place in a couple days. I think it starts tomorrow, by the way.
Yeah, it starts tomorrow. Yeah.
One really like a really interesting thing. First of all, I actually want us to go through the broadcast talent, like the lineup for this one, because I think it's kind of sick. Obviously, we have Banks as the host, which is gonna be nice. We have Mike, who's gonna be desk host as well. Banks is gonna be the stage one. The talent for the caster, like that's crazy for me. Obviously, like we have Brandon and Lucy, the duo, like they've been working together for a long time. We know them. They're good friends of ours. They're lovely guys, deserve to be there. And then Yumi gets to cast with Bardo, with James Bardo, who's returning
so
to
random.
CS.
It feels so random.
That was so sick. I didn't expect that, by the way, but I'm so happy to see the man returning into CS.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess this is where I come in handy a little bit. I'll not say too much because it's not mine to tell, but Tea Time was, I believe,
he couldn't get visa.
meant to go.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know, it just visa and all that has not. It's been something that I think they've been trying to sort for him for a little while, and you know, it can be a bit awkward, especially at this time in the world and whatnot. So you know, definitely should be recognized just for at least people who are paying attention that maybe him and Yumi have been trying to get something in together for a little while there.
They've been a duo for a long time now, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know where they're sort of
oh my god, I found it.
Fighting off sneezing here, guys. So that's
why.
But yeah, I think it's cool to see Bardolph back, right? You know, I feel like he's one of the great characters of the game at the very least, and it's cool to kind of see him back. I don't know what the deal is. Obviously, he's pretty high up in Face It, so I don't know now that this merge has kind of come in. Are we going to see more of him? Is he, you know, is it maybe a last minute fill that they just really needed someone that they knew was reliable and all that kind of stuff? I don't know.
He's been doing
it's cool.
He's been getting into it.
Yeah, I saw he did a couple days of that. Yeah, so I don't know. It'd
really
be nice
random.
to see him back.
It was like, oh, Bardolph, hi.
But I don't know where it goes. It's difficult, isn't it? Because obviously he's been in more at the top level. He probably doesn't really have a partner now. He may have, you know, disgruntled a few of them with the Stockholm Major. Don't know. But it'd be good to kind of see him. Like I say, he's a great character of the game. I'd love to see. I think he'd do great for me on content, you know, and goofing about and doing some funny stuff with players and things like that. Yeah, exactly. And I think that we need a bit more of that.
He's got some nice sarcasm working for him. I feel like he's a funny guy. Analyst desk looking good as well. I mean,
Hedgie is good with
she brings in. Hedgie is sick. Alan, I think deserves this one as well. You know, he's been doing a good job. I haven't seen a lot from John, by the way. I might be really uneducated.
I've only heard him cast. I haven't heard
him. Well, he mainly casts in NA.
Yeah.
Plays a lot like it's interesting. Like in America, I don't know whether this is where he gets it from, but for my kind of money, he does a lot with stats, and I think that that's something that they do in baseball. It's like a pretty big thing in baseball.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's a lot of downtime in that sport, so I guess it's good to fill the air. And a really sweet guy. You know, I met him when I did Valencia. He was at that as well, and really cool guy.
From America, or is he living in EU?
From Canada technically, you know, to split them up, but yeah, definitely across from there, yeah.
Oh, well, that's you know, very interesting.
Yeah, and well, I think so. There's a little bit of logistics involved here, to be fair, guys. I think we also maybe have to address is the fact that they've got the guys across for the Americas RMR, which, you know, him and Mike, I think, definitely should be involved in that. Been doing Challenger League for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Obviously, they like Mike as a host. And then I think a little bit of it is the fact that, you know, okay, we've already got this guy here, flights and
might as well make him
visas
work,
and all this kind of. It's a little bit less stress when you've got back-to-back events. That, you know, they but also indeed getting a few more fresh faces in there. They could quite easily have gone, okay, we got Scrawny and Launders here. Let's just, you know, it probably would have overlapped. Well, no, they probably could have done it. They probably could have squeezed this in before.
You know,
Showdown
I'd actually like to see Launders on an analyst desk. I think he'd be good on it.
For these types of events as well, right? Like they had Maui out when we did Valencia. It's cool to have someone who really has, you know, the kind of respect and all that. Yeah, and that higher up kind of depth and everything for sure. I think Alan's definitely getting there though. The more that they give to him, it's getting
pretty
a lot better
much
for
almost
him.
there now. Like he's
for sure.
Really like his experience he has as well within CS, like coaching endpoint and stuff like that.
It's like waiting for a gap to open up on the bigger broadcast. Ultimately, is
pretty much.
Alan's at. Obviously, he's done like Pro League and stuff like that. But yeah, and it feels like a pretty good development sort of situation. And hopefully they maybe do a little bit more rotation of talent, but we'll see. Yeah, and I think Banks as well for me is probably the best interviewer in the game. He obviously has been doing it for a while, but his rapport, his relationships, and it's a lot more genuine with the players, I think. And he has those good kind of connections where it's like, okay, I can ask this guy a complex question. Maybe I want to ask this guy a simple question. He doesn't do too well after losses or whatever, right? He has a lot of that recognition at this point, which I think really does bring the best out of the players. So it's a solid lineup. It's a very solid lineup, and this is where these events for me need to be. Where sure it was COVID or whatever, but over the COVID era, it was a bit frustrating at my kind of level where all the dream hacks as they were, very similar talent every time, kind of just recycling some of the top talent.
Unhealthy.
And it was difficult. Yeah, it was difficult because I think these tournaments need to be, okay, yeah, we need someone like a Banks or a Bardolph or someone who's experienced to hold down each angle of, and as Mike starts getting more and Alan starts getting more, they can hold down their respective roles. And like, if there's a fill session, Alan and Mike are familiar with each other, they can bounce pretty well and, involve that other analyst that maybe is less familiar with filling on the desk or whatever. But it should also have quote unquote newer talent to people who, obviously us three will know who they are, but for people that only watch the big tournaments, maybe they don't recognize who they are. And there's only so much that you can do in your bedroom as well at the end of the day.
Yeah, but
right?
that's a good thing, right? I mean, those tournaments, like the purpose of a tournament on that level, which used to be the Dream Hack Open, because this is pretty much the same, right? Like the purpose of this is giving like, that is a tier 2, like a good tier 2 ESL event for teams. It should be the same for casters, in my opinion. Like, obviously, you want to have, as you said, like you want to have a couple like recognizable names, like your Banks, maybe your Bardolph, or people like that have more experience, And as you said, for people like Alan and Mike, just waiting for a gap in tier 1 to jump in. But then you want to have some people that are just getting, I don't want to say recycled. I want to say maybe rotated a little bit more in terms of
it's
like
rotation,
the casting. Yeah, the casting and analyst position. You want to be giving chances to people that might have not had the chance to cast LANs or a lot of studio events before. See how they do. If they don't do well, you can move on. But it's pretty much the same with like I've always looked at the talent scene in a pretty similar way to the player scene as well. I feel like it's really like in terms of competition, it's pretty similar. And then like if you want to be giving chance to I don't know, you want to be giving chance to teams like Fluxo to show themselves in an international space. You want to be giving chances to people like Brandon and Lucy to cast events like that, do well, and see how they fare. Because in a couple years, obviously, people like Sponge, like Hugo, like Harry, like Londers, like Scrawny, all of those guys, they're going to be casting
out.
They're going to be casting. It's not even fading out. I feel like you've been casting the game for such a long time. At some point, you're going to get bored. At some point, you're going to be like, you know what? It's time to hang on the mic. It's time to do something else. Give some space for to the rest. And those guys that are right now commentating an event like ESL Challenger, they're going to be the ones commentating a major in like, let's say 3-4 years or something like that. Yeah. When the big dogs decide, you know what, I have something else that I want to be doing now. Or if they decided, obviously. So I guess it's really healthy and it's really good for the scene to be giving chances to people like that to prove themselves and get that experience on a stage, because obviously they're not going to step on the scene and be like first BO3 or first event become people's favorites, right? You're going to need some time to get accustomed to all of that and the environment and stuff. But with time, with getting that experience, you're going to get there.
Yeah, I think especially for me is like me and Brandon are best friends. Like I've known him since 2018, 2017. We went to LAN in 2019 together. Like he's met my family, I've met his family. Like he's someone who like I make an effort to try to go see whenever I go back to England. We got Instis together. Like if you he actually just got his Wikipedia the other day. Like if you click on his stuff, fucking doing SCL and like some of the like we just grinded together for like 4 months, just us two. And like it makes me so happy to see, because I know I just like I can't speak for other people, so I don't know how much effort to put in, but it's like for him, it's like the ability for him to go full time now. He's quit his job. Esports like a dream that, like when we were playing an open together in 2020 over COVID, it's like that kind of like loose dream of being like, oh, imagine if we did esports, and it's like holy shit, that's actually a thing now. And like we had a call about it the other day, and it's like fuck, like wow, like this is like for us, like this year's been like our lives have changed this year.
Yeah.
Just completely. Like it's like, and for so much of the better. Like he went from not really enjoying his job, kind of just like, you know, and then now he's like here fucking RMR in Sweden, and it's like just see that makes me like it couldn't make any happier.
Yeah, I think
Like,
Sadikis said that.
it's amazing.
A good day in the office is still not as good as a bad day in the server. And
I suppose.
yeah, it couldn't be more true. So
Like it's and like having him just like we're still just even though we're not really a duo anymore. It's not like, you know, like we were never like we were officially a duo going into it, and we haven't like officially like we haven't. I guess it's the first I'm probably speaking about as well. We haven't separated, like we haven't announced it or something like that. But like I think it's pretty obvious what's happened. So like we're not really we still cast like CCT together and stuff like whenever we can, but by and large we don't really like. There are like, you know, like I cast with him yesterday for the first time in like 3 weeks, for instance, stuff like that. So it's like we don't really work together that much anymore, but we still like play Hearthstone every day together. We still chat every day, and it's
that's
like
the most
just
boring
like
game
I
out
couldn't
there.
be.
I'm sorry.
Fuck off. But it's like having him. I'm being sentimental. Shut up. And like just having like seeing him like do all this stuff, and especially like getting out of his comfort zone, having like being in Cologne with him, like having him just like stand there or like interview Carrigan. It's like, fuck, man. Like this is like us two have come through it all together. We've gone through everything, all the steps together, and like seeing us here together is just like it's just so, it makes me so happy.
Yeah. Well,
it's wholesome, man. It's wholesome.
Yeah, that was.
I kind of have the same. I kind of have the same. I'm maybe not as close because I haven't seen him in person for a long time. But Yumi's kind of a similar for myself. You know what I mean? Like I did. We went to like America together on our first sort of venture out for like a Face It competition thing that we won, and you know all that. So yeah, it's very cool to see. I think that ultimately you have to look to support other people when you're working in the talent industry, just because it's kind of maybe the system that you should get a bit annoyed at, and you know, oh, it doesn't make sense, or I did all this work for this company and then they've, you know, just gone with the bigger talent and things like that. There's plenty to be disgruntled with, but it's never going to be healthy if you just
podcast for this.
Well, yeah, totally. But you know,
to narrow it down though, the support that each like commentators give each other is ridiculous. Like,
yeah.
It should
you have
like
to, man. You have to.
Because I'm like one of the new kids on the block, and just the support everyone's given me is like ridiculous.
Yeah,
like,
it has to be healthy
nice
competition in the end of the day. I
Yeah.
feel like.
Right.
Like, you should be hoping for yourself to do better, but you shouldn't be hoping for everyone else to be doing bad. You know what I mean? Like, you should still be able to appreciate others getting success. Even though like you might be like, oh, I didn't get that tournament, but he did. No, you should be happy about him getting it. You should be like, you know what can I do better to be chosen next time? You know, I hope I work it with him. I want to get there, but I'm still really happy for him because I know what he's going
good
through.
competition.
Yeah, but that's like I think healthy competition is the way to go. You know, fair play.
I think it's very healthy, which is nice.
Yeah, it's been good. And speaking of healthy competition, by the way, because we're getting into we had a lovely talk about a lot of, you know, tournaments, teams and stuff like that. Healthy competition. Now, this is not a healthy competition. We're speaking about taste here, ladies and gents. We're speaking about fashion. And you know, I love saying everyone is attuned to their opinion, even if it's wrong. Well, I think I'm a man of strong opinion when it comes to knives and skins. Freddie knows that. Skriv, now you know it as well. I'm really picky when it comes to that. And I'm really critical of others. But now I'm going to give you guys the chance to fill in a bit of a tier list for knives here. Because obviously, don't mind the skins. I've just picked up the knives. Yeah, I didn't find better PNG files. I'm sorry. But yeah, we have goated. We have sheesh, which is like still a decent knife. Not goated, but it's still quite good. We have does the job, which essentially means it's better than a default knife. If you can play with it, you're going to play with it, but it's not great. And then you have, what the fuck is wrong with you? Which is, I guess this is pretty self-explanatory right here.
All right.
I think we can start off and we can all agree Shadow Daggers is a goated.
Okay, can I kick
I'm
you
being
from,
serious.
I'm
I'm
gonna
being
kick
serious.
you from the call.
Shadow Daggers.
I think that
literally, I'm gonna
serious.
kick you from the call.
Shadow Daggers Crimson Web. Shadow Daggers Crimson Web is a goated. Like, it's actually unreal.
You know, I'm not tagging you when I upload the episode.
They are funny. I like the funny angle. You know, I think Shadow Daggers are not necessarily like bad. like dreadful.
Yeah.
But they are kind of funny. The whole moving your crosshair, it's like they're just a
You get
world of
used
their
to
own.
it.
It's like,
You
what the
kind
fuck?
of get
mate?
used to it.
Yeah,
to be
no,
fair.
I know, but it's just like the design aspect of it. Like, why did no one say that this might be a bit jarring and a bit weird?
Yeah,
and they are
like the fact
funny.
they
They're
haven't
like
fixed
a
it
meme.
either.
Okay, so
They
you
just,
wanna
like-
you wanna put them up there? You
I
wanna
don't
put
know.
the
I don't
shadow-
know about goated. I don't know about
Could
goated,
you
but I will
sheesh?
say, sure, yeah, let's go. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
could, cause, but on like a funny angle, you know what I mean? It's like an
Yeah.
ironic
Yeah,
or
sure.
whatever. Like if
Yeah,
you
I
want to
think-
do.
sure.
For the opposite end, Falchion in What's Wrong with You?
Yeah, I'd say there's got to be maybe the third one's a bit disputed here, but I'd say Falchion or Falcon. First of all, no idea how you say it.
I think it's
Never known.
Falchion. I think it's just Falchion.
Okay,
Or
and then
Falchion.
Navajar as well.
Yeah, on that one I agree. Navaja is.
Navajar's dreadful.
Yeah,
bro.
yeah,
Don't
yeah,
even.
yeah. That
don't
one,
even-
Freddie. We're not giving you. You know what, Freddie? I just put.
We'll give you the shadow daggers.
I just put
I can
shadow
give it, but
daggers in Sheesh. And
Navaja's
it's
just-
my podcast. I'm not putting Navaja outside of this. And it's bottom of What's Wrong with You. It's rock bottom. It's not going
Maybe-
before.
Maybe
anything.
I'll just leave the cool.
I'd also argue putting the gut knife there because I feel
Oh
like the gut
yeah,
knife
yeah.
is
Fuck the gut knife.
pretty
Yeah,
boring.
I agree with
I'd
this one.
say
But I think
I'd
the Falchion
say-
is better than the gut. So I'm just gonna put it here.
Okay,
I'm just gonna put
okay.
it second.
Yeah, at least there's a rare animation.
Yeah, I want to hear your thoughts on the Bowie, by the way, because I think this is.
I like it,
I think
but I
that's
think
an
it
awful
does-
thing.
I think it
It's
does
like-
the job.
Yeah. There's a lot of real estate. You get a lot out of your skin or whatever. Again, it's kind of jarring, but not in a funny way. Like the shadow
Yeah.
daggers are a bit funny. The fact that there's no
Ooh.
like left hand or whatever just feels really weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it is like, the pull-out animation's a little bit satisfying and things
It's
like that. But
nice.
there's not too much to it. So yeah, I
Okay.
think like does the job is fair, which maybe, some people would want to put it in the worst tier.
Okay.
What about like some of the newer knives, like the Nomad Skeleton classic? I think the classics are goated. I think that's.
I think the classic's good as well.
Okay, I think I can. We can agree on this one simply because of 1.6, right? Out of
It's also
Yeah.
put it
to be
here.
fair, it is a really nice skin. Like the pull-out animation is cool. Like the skins, like it just looks nice. I feel like it is a nice skin, regardless.
Yeah, it's got an idle animation, which is kind of cool.
Mm.
Which like other knives don't have that.
Mm.
Which is again like pulled from 1.6, so that's kind of cool. I will
Yeah.
say as well, it's like vanilla. It looks really cool fade, but there's the there's like the rare tech or whatever that if you get a well-worn crimson web, the like webbing that's on the side like
Yeah.
matches up perfectly with where the skin ends, and it's kind of so that looks really cool.
It's cool.
So yeah, I definitely I like the classic. I like the
Yeah.
classic for sure.
Yeah.
It's hard. I'd say something like the Nomad. I'd say the Nomad's like a sheesh because
They're all like, they're like nice, but like
yeah, it's only the fade that seems to look good. Slaughter looks okay as well.
Yeah, I like
The
the
rest
Nomad,
of the skins on it for some reason don't look.
I
I feel
like
like
the
a
Nomad.
case hardened, like a full blue looks good on anything.
I
In
either
general,
can't
yeah.
find the Nomad or I've forgotten. I
It's
think
a
I
really.
didn't put it in.
It feels like a bit of. I don't think you have put it in.
No,
Yeah, I think you
I
might have
didn't.
forgotten
I
to put
didn't.
it
But
in.
I like the
Yeah,
Nomad,
we
and we're
can
gonna.
forget it.
Yeah, we're gonna agree on the fact that the Nomad is a sheesh. I think
Sure.
the
All
Nomad
the-
is a good knife.
I'd say all the new ones are good. Like all those newest ones,
Yeah.
like the Nomad Skeleton, Survival, Paracon, and Classic are all good.
Oh,
And then you've got the Skeleton and Classic. I think are like goated. I think those.
Yeah,
I think the
I'd say so. I think the
skeletons, yeah.
skeleton's very cool.
Okay.
The like pull out animation, he spins it on his thumb. Very
Yeah,
cool.
Okay.
I think it's cool. And the
Okay.
skins also look. They also like the skins go well with it. Like a
Yeah.
crimson web looks really
Yeah,
nice on a
yeah.
skeleton.
The skeleton is a good one. I think we can straight away just put the butterfly and goated as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was waiting
It's
for him
like-
to say it.
Yeah, just without a doubt.
It's maybe
I-
slightly like overrated. Like it's
think
even
so?
in its own tier. Yeah, well, it's kind of like the
It's it.
You know.
Basically, like it's it.
yeah.
I
It's
think
almost
the
like the
best
baseline.
one-
It's like the unoriginal pick though. Everyone thinks. I guess there's a reason why
Same with
everyone thinks it's
Karamba.
amazing.
I
but
just think
yeah,
it's
yeah,
the
so,
best
yeah.
knife in the game with a big difference. The butterfly. I've
Sure,
played with.
yeah, sure.
I think I've played with. I think I've played with every single knife in CS. No, I haven't played with a classic, but I've played with any other knife in the game, and I haven't played with Navaja as well, but I don't want to. I
Well,
don't need
yeah.
to.
That's fair enough.
The butterfly is way better. You know, this is the only knife that you can be playing for like you can play with it for like a couple weeks, and you're not gonna get bored. You're simply gonna enjoy it. Like, you're not gonna enjoy it as much in the beginning as you did in the beginning, but you're still gonna like it. Whereas, let's say a flip knife is cool, but then you play with it for 1-2 weeks, and then you're like, it's just boring.
Yeah, especially they're just sort of a bit outdated, aren't they? Some of the older ones where it's like I'd say it's kind of like the Bayer, the M9, maybe the Huntsman's in like a does the job.
Okay, Huntsman does the job.
I
I'd
don't
say
know
so.
what you.
I'd say
you thinking,
yeah.
Freddie?
I think
I know
the
some people
Huntsman,
really don't like it.
I think there's a
think
lot of
it
skins.
looks-
I think there's a lot of knives in does the job, actually.
Yeah,
The thing with Huntsman is that like the skins look really good on it. Like, holy shit, like it works, but then it's just so like, eh.
it is very basic.
there's
I think
nothing-
as well.
That's the problem. It's the same with flip knife. Like, the skins work well with it, but then it's like okay, like you kind of you get bored of it almost. Like, it's like there's nothing to it. Like the
So
Huntsman,
we put the flip and does the job as well.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
think
it's
so.
top of it though. I think it's
Yeah,
ahead of the Bowie for sure.
Oh, the flip knife is a pure classic. It's a safe, like, it's never bad,
Yeah.
but it just does the job. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing special about it. But like, German Guardians, like, he had like a
Yeah,
sapphire
yeah.
and a ruby.
Yeah,
like,
and
that
Kenny
shit's
as well.
cool. But like, yeah,
It
that
is-
shit's
it's a
awesome.
It's a good little AWPing knife, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You hit a clip and then you just pull the knife out, and it's like that satisfying little,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
simple. You know, it's a nice little finish.
Same with Navajo.
No, man, just piss off. That's
It looks bad.
you
It
know
looks
that's
bad,
mental.
I'm sorry.
It's just mental. This is not a
Because
knife.
that's the thing. That's the thing. It's like, if you want that, maybe you just buy a flip knife instead of buying a Navajo. Navajo is like the budget flip knife, so I feel like it's got to be, and it just doesn't have the same kind of real estate or whatever.
I
But
guess
I think the older ones, it's like, because they just have the one animation or whatever. Everyone's a bit of an ADHD gamer these days, so you want all the,
Yep.
cool different things that you can do.
Mm.
Exactly. That is it.
Yeah. Moving forward, I think the paracord and the survival knives, I think they're quite together. I mean, I just see
Sure.
the same knife here.
Identical. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
identical.
I'd say both of them go and does the job in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd agree.
I agree, yeah.
I don't think they're bad, but it's like there's nothing special about it. I think they're just they were an attempt for Valve to make it a bit of an upgraded version to the Ursus knife, but I don't think they've succeeded. I
I was
actually
gonna say,
prefer the Ursus.
the Ursus is like a sheesh, I think.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I actually love the Ursus and the Stiletto. I think both of them. I think they have they have their place in Sheesh.
The thing with Stiletto is that it's the same with like the Huntsman. Like, the skins look really good on Stiletto. Like the Stiletto, like a Doppler just looks so sick, and then
Yeah.
like even a Tiger Tooth just looks like, it just looks good. Like, it just works.
Plus, whenever Simple plays with a knife, it's automatically goaded. So we
Indeed.
kind of have to put it in Sheesh. Okay, so this
What
one's
if-
coming here. Do we put the Ursus in here as well?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm like so 50-50 with the Ursus. I think it could. I think just because we've got so many does the job, it just like,
I feel like at the bottom of Sheesh, maybe.
yeah.
Yeah,
it's very
bottom of
much-
Sheesh or top of does the job. I think it is.
Yeah, sure.
It's something
mean,
like that.
It's up to you, boss. Your podcast.
Yeah, you're the boss,
go
man.
for it.
No, you know what? You make the decision. You choose it. Like this.
I'd
is
say
the moment
I'd
I
say
put the
Sheesh. I like the.
Okay.
Is it an infinite animation where he like spins it around his fingers? I think if you can get that, that's kind of cool. Run into a bomb site, just
I
spinning
think
your
it
knife.
is, yeah. But in the
Yeah.
moment that I put the shadow daggers in Sheesh, this is not my tier list anymore. So it's you that take control.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough.
Yeah, that would be rock
And
bottom.
now-
What's wrong with you for me?
Ah man, these are kind of
fuck's
tough.
I
These are
think
kind of tough.
the Talons are sheesh. I don't think.
I
it's a
think so
go-to.
too. I feel like
Yeah,
it looks cool.
just
It's
not
a little
quite
bit cheaper.
Is
It's
it
not the
better
original.
than the shadow daggers or worse? I actually
I
didn't
think-
ask about the stiletto.
better. I'd say I'd
I-
put it behind Stiletto.
Behind the stiletto.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So it's
Mm.
worse than it.
as in
yeah.
like it's
because
yeah.
one of the big
Okay.
things with the Talon knife that does my head in is the noise.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's a screw loose or something. You know what I
Okay,
mean? Like
yeah.
it just doesn't sound great. But again, it's like a bit of a modernized, because on the Karambit, the classic, like other people can't see it, but the classic is, you can cancel inspect animations by like hit and reload or whatever, right? So you do the infinite spin on your screen, but other people can't see it, and obviously it requires a little bit of tech. It's not hard, but On the Talon, it's like automatic. You know, you hit that spin and it's just infinite and is cleaner, and you don't mess it up. You know, and all that. And obviously, everyone else can see it. So it feels like that's kind of cool. But the Karambit does just look and feel a little bit better, I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think the Karambit firstly goated, and then what I think you can't not put the Karambit goated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's
you
just
can't.
too big.
Okay.
I think it's it. But then now I'm like, do both of these skins go goated?
I don't think the Bionet goes goated. I think the Bio is a straight up sheesh. But I
Yeah,
think the
okay, I
M9
agree
is a
with that.
goated. I'd say the
Yeah,
M9.
I'd
I
agree.
with
I would
that.
agree.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, the M9 is the
I would
ultimate
agree.
movement knife. I feel like obviously
Yeah.
Butterfly is great, but I don't know if you have that feeling. I feel like whenever I'm playing with an M9, my movement
It's
is just on
just-
another level. It's just so swift.
Yeah, sure. But I feel like as well, like the M9 is probably like the best looking knife. You don't maybe have the animation, you know, the pullout's kind of cool, and
Yeah.
but it's chunky. There's a lot of real estate. It's very cool, serrated edge, you know, all that sort of stuff. I feel like it is the best looking. It's probably between
Yeah.
that and the Karambit for me.
It
where
has
it's
a
like-
lot of space for the skin pattern as well.
Yeah, and like the hilt is pretty big, so you can some of the skins, you know, blend like move on to that, and you can appreciate it a lot more. Whereas like maybe on a butterfly or whatever, the effect of like an ultraviolet or you know is not as big,
Yeah. Where do we
etc.
put it,
etc.
though? Which
I'd say
position?
somewhere. I'd say second actually.
Okay.
Like behind
Yeah.
the butterfly.
Okay. So I agree with that one. And then we put the Bio in sheesh.
I think it's high sheesh.
High sheesh.
So do I. Yeah.
Before the Shadow Daggers or after?
Can never be a good
Okay, it's number 2. I don't know why I'm even asking this. So yeah, here we have it. Anything that you would change?
I think it's. I mean, apart
think
from
that's
never
about
hard
right.
being goated, but like apart from that, like
Yeah, maybe the Ursus is a bit of a, you know, I think we're in the right spot where it's like, yeah, it's either top of or.
You know what? I'm
Yeah.
gonna put it here. I don't
Okay.
think the Ursus is like.
Okay.
I don't think it's bio equivalent. I still think it's a sick knife, but I'd say the Talon and the Stiletto were just. a
Yeah,
little
I don't
bit
know.
better.
I'd possibly if we're being a bit strict with ourselves as well, I'd maybe say that we need like less in goated than in sheesh. You know what I mean? So maybe we have to do a bit of. I'd maybe pull the classic down.
Okay, so the classic maybe in high tier sheesh.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I think so.
and then.
And that
really
kind of
those-
fits though. That's
yeah.
how like a tier list should sort of look as
I
Yeah.
think this is good.
Yeah.
I like this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah,
Freddie, I want to
happy
bring
with
your attention down here. This one stays here. This one shouldn't be in the game. Well, it should be because there's crazy psychopaths like you that want to be playing it with it.
Sure. It's very cheap. That's kind of the only angle. If you want a
Yeah.
knife for knife's sake.
Yeah,
calling
but
me cheap?
having a knife, yeah, he did actually. But having a knife nowadays isn't the same as having a knife back in the days. I feel like back in the days,
True,
you
there's
would be
just so many.
You would be like, there's
cheaper.
5 or 6 knives in the game. You just want a knife. You just want to be able to play with a knife because if you have a knife, you're
Yeah,
like the pros. And nowadays, everyone just has skins, so it doesn't really. It doesn't really make that much of a difference, and you don't have like the old school, like only the old school knives. You have so much more. But yeah, gentlemen, it was a pleasure.
Face it page, face it match page.
Okay,
Face
yeah,
it
I've
match
seen
page,
it.
no
I've
page,
seen it.
yeah.
Okay, so for those of you that
Wait,
are
put
going
up
to be
a
watching
stream.
that video on YouTube, Freddy's literally spammed his face it page with like 20 times
It's the fact
in the
I
chat.
didn't shit. I also didn't shit the bed. I also on 100 ping. I also did well. Which open
Oh
it
yeah,
up. Put it
and
on
now
stream.
you've had 100 ping. Okay, next time I ask you, you're going to be playing on 40 FPS
Mate,
as well.
I was
That's where it
playing
just
in
gets
Dallas
better
servers.
and better with time.
Mate, I was playing on Dallas servers in England. What do you expect?
Okay,
Open
but
up the match page.
yeah, on a serious note, gentlemen, thank you for joining me for episode number 2. I really hope that you had a good time. I hope you had a good talk, and yeah, I had a lovely time.
Yeah, it was good. It was
Yeah,
good. It was a lot of fun.
Quite
You know,
enjoyed it.
we got some good banter in there as well as talking about
Yeah.
all the lovely stuff that we like talking about. You know, shitting on G2 and Astralis, always good.
Yeah, shitting on G2 and Astralis. You love it. That's one of the best feelings in CS. But yeah, thank you again for joining me for that lovely talk. Had a really great time. Thank you for everybody for watching, who's watching this on Twitch, and thank you for everyone that's watching this on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe, like. I'm gonna try and get up to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. I'm not sure if that's gonna happen. I hope I'm like 200 away, but yeah, leave me a sub and a like and a comment. tell me who you want me to bring up in the next episode of the TED Talk podcast. Already have a couple really interesting interviews coming up with people that I'm not gonna announce yet, but yeah, they're gonna be quite sick. So I guess I'll see you really soon. Thank you for tuning in.